Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Spar and Brawl. I hope you're having a decent day. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Sam, and we're back with another episode of the Progressive World podcast. So, as per usual, here's a quick rundown of today's show. So, in our Progressive World online section, we're going to start with 4 videos by Glenn Greenwald. In one of them, he responds to a critic called Stephen Fritz. He has a second video called The Poisonous Left Liberal Mentality and Dialogue and Race. He took part in an interesting debate about identity politics with Judith Butler and Cornel West. That was quite fun as well. And then he also did a video which I really enjoyed, which was on cryptocurrency and blockchain. So we're going to talk about those videos. Then Useful Idiots reacted, to Lauren Boebert's ridiculous and insane statements and joke about Ilhan Omar. Matt Taibbi's reaction to it is quite interesting. And they also had Oliver Stone on who talked about his new movie, I believe. Is it a movie or a documentary, Sam? I'm not too sure, on JFK.
Documentary.
It's
a multi-part documentary.
Okay. Then I've discovered, Sam shared me this video, that Jeremy Corbyn has a brother and his brother is insane, to say the least. So we'll talk about that. Then there was also, Sam, you said, is his name Jussie Smollett? Did I say his name word? That actor who
Jussie Smollett.
Jussie Smollett. So you have some updates on him. He's the actor who faked an attack by a Trump supporter or fan, and he got caught quite quickly. I think his act lasted only a few days, based on what I recall. Then Steven Pinker was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he talked about rationality. So we'll talk about that again. And then Bat Fade had a podcast on the Beatles, which, we'll share our comments. It's a bit of a fun one. Then we're going to move to our progressive geopolitics segment. So Sam, why don't you tell us a little bit what we have there? And I also have one story.
Sure. Well, there's not much substantive, to be honest, in terms of development in terms of geopolitics, but there's a couple of updates regarding Afghanistan, regarding Iran, and regarding just global politics, I suppose. There is one at the end which I found quite interesting and somewhat it's just, I don't know, worrying, or like, what's that omening of the dark times coming? Is that
like foreshadowing or something?
Foreshadowing of it's not so much foreshadowing, but it feels like we are. Anyways, we'll get into it, but it's going to be a fun one as always.
Okay, and then I have a news story as well, which is apparently that UK Parliament is full of cokeheads, based on a Washington Post article. So I'll read a few paragraphs from that, which is not too surprising, no?
I thought it was like it was common knowledge, to be honest.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll wrap up with a few tweets. And got a bunch of tweets from Cenk Uygur, and I just find them funny because he's saying exactly what Glenn says, but then he has so much, problems with Glenn. So we have a few other progressive tweets there too, and also a tweet by, I keep on forgetting his name, Sam, but you're telling me it's a gentleman who's made a sudden shift from the Hillary to the Bernie Sanders camp. What's his name again?
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a whole. Oh yeah, that's going to be a whole segment, I feel. Peter Daou. I was not aware of Peter Daou's shift, which we'll discuss, but wow. I don't go on Twitter. That's probably why.
I wasn't too familiar with him anyway, so I'm sure you'll tell everybody about that shift, and I think that's it. So as per usual, got timestamps down below, so you can click on them, and please like, and more importantly, subscribe if you're a regular subscriber and you haven't subscribed. Consider doing so. All right, Sam, with that out of the way, let's get this party started. So I think I'll introduce first 2 videos that have to do with Glenn. Well, actually, both of these videos were posted on his own channel. The first one is called The Poisonous Left Liberal Mentality on Dialogue and Race. So I didn't get to watch this one. Sam sent it to me last week, and I was just trying to watch it yesterday, and now it's private for some reason, but thankfully Sam's seen it. And the second video, which this one I did get to see, and Glenn, in this one, Glenn Greenwald responds to criticisms by general made towards him, but the individual who brings them here is called Stephen Fritz. So if I understood correctly, Glenn Greenwald put a post out on Twitter saying, anybody who wants, just list your criticisms that you have towards me, and I'll pick one of you and we can have a talk, and post it on Rumble and YouTube. So he picked Stephen Fritz, which I believe Stephen Fritz said that he's been politically active since 2016, and perhaps he makes some videos on YouTube. I remember hearing that, but I tried looking up for him and I couldn't find him in that way. But yeah, Sam, so I've set these two videos up. Do you want to kind of give an overview of what they're both about, or if you want, you can separate them a little bit?
Yeah, well, let me just give an overview of the Poisonous Left one, because you haven't seen it, so makes sense. But in that one, which is a bit more of a general, well, Glenn Greenwald had been, he's been target of criticism from the, let's say, more liberal leaning left, or more center left, or more, I don't know, whatever left. So he talks about the fact that he goes on this program, I forget the name, that this guy interviews people who are good fathers, and he's had number of famous people on, Matthew McConaughey, a lot of actors, a lot of like normal famous people, celebrities, and he goes there to talk about fatherhood and all that. He tweets about it, that it was a very nice interview, blah blah blah, and then couple of people who work at major, there is one guy, he focuses on two individuals. One of them works at an activist organization in the US that they work towards a more, of course, justice and equal society. And then there is a lady who also responds to his thread of tweets, I believe. That is I believe she's an academic at, I forget again, Essex University, or one British university. Maybe it was Nottingham. I forget. Anyway, and in those tweets, the guy says that look at the latest conservative idiot that Glenn Greenwald is promoting. And then the guy has gone digged into the interviewer, the guy who interviewed Glenn Greenwald, and has found tweets from like 3-4 years ago that he was, before Black Lives Matter became completely normalized as a slogan, he was one of those guys that like all lives matter, or blue, something along those lines. No, I don't even remember but he was a conservative. I don't think he was like a genuinely racist or anything like that. I think he was just just the traditional family values. Oh, one of his tweets was about the fact that lack of father figures within families is a major issue within the US, and like blah blah blah, traditional values.
So kind of on brand with his show, though, no? I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but in his show, he's had multiple black people, multiple trans people. Well, I don't know about trans people, but he's had gay people like Glenn on. So I don't think he's a traditional value, but even that traditional value within a gay family or trans family would be fine by him, I assume. But the guy has gone and digged out these like tweets that in his view are just the most damning things ever. And he says, yeah, Glenn is promoting these right-wing guys. And then the lady who was a professor says that, because I don't know how she figured out Glenn has adopted children who are not white, And she says he has black children. Oh my God. Like, oh, like, what a tragedy. Like, and then well,
Wait,
naturally, I
wait, what
feel
do you
Glenn,
mean? What did she mean?
like, as in, like, Glenn is basically, he's promoting racists or enabling racists. Potentially, he is a racist, and he
Okay.
has adopted children. I feel so sorry for them.
Wow.
Those children must be so. My heart goes. I mean, not to mention the fact that I believe Glenn's husband is half black, or or just like, just
I mean,
I
he's
don't
not the
like the whole
whitest
thing.
looking person. Yeah, I mean, I don't know his
I
his
think he
background, but
mentions
yeah,
Glenn's mentions him as, yeah, I don't I yeah in yeah, who cares
yeah,
anyway. But yeah, the lady, I mean, it was just like it was like somebody, one of those assholes that try to whip up the crowd, and
yeah.
then there was a Karen right there to just be whipped up. So, and I feel Glenn was very obviously upset about that,
hmm
because he's, I mean, it got personal. So
Yeah.
naturally, people get personal. I would say he kept saying that they're mocking interracial families. I don't think they were mocking interracial families. They
hmm
were just saying Glenn is a racist, but he somehow is in an interracial marriage. And
Yeah.
I don't get it, but I think that was their contention. But yeah, it was an interesting video. Like, I don't know, like, it wasn't that interesting, but it was, worth highlighting, because it shows just how empty
These attacks are.
like, it was so stupid. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, I mean, it sounds like absolutely ridiculous. I guess, yeah, I guess the lady was making that, the point of, yeah, I guess, I mean, like, it's like someone she's trying to say it's someone like who's racist towards black people, but married towards with like a black woman or black guy. So I guess the person is trying to say that Glenn is one of them, right?
But what?
Like,
I didn't
some people,
understand.
they're like, oh, this person is a racist, and just because they're married towards with someone from another race or something like that, it doesn't mean that they're not racist, so they're trying to make
No,
that accusation towards Glenn, right?
they I don't think they even knew. Like, the guy may have. The lady didn't know. I don't think knew Glenn or her husband or like, she literally was somebody who. Did you know Glenn Greenwald, who's a racist? And you, of course, because I said it, you must accept that he's a racist.
Yeah.
Has black children. I mean, I don't think. Yeah, but yeah, of course, there are loads of, like, there are loads of famously rich old men who sleep with a number of people who are not from their ethnicities and
Yeah.
love it, and they are openly racist. So no, that's, yeah, no, I just think they didn't know anything about him, and except the fact that they hate him. So
hmm
that seemed to be the main thing.
Yeah, I see. Okay, yeah, so just typical. And
Yeah, do
anything
you
else,
agree
Glenn?
with any of their?
No, no, no. Of course not. I mean, based based on the thing he says. And it's actually, I mean, interesting that it was good to see that, when we'll talk about this debate after that, he took part in, like, the respect that both Judith Butler, Cornel West, and the moderator showed towards Glenn. It kind of took me back, in time, when it was like 5-6 years ago, where it was much more common in these kind of areas for people to, be respectful towards Glenn.
Oh, specifically Glenn. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I thought you mean it as in, I thought you're gonna say respectful in a general sense, but okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, towards Glenn. Yeah, that, I mean, it's just that's a whole different between a discussion and a Twitter, I suppose, attack, and that's the
Yeah.
difference between, like, academia and, I don't know, general media or politics, whatever you want to call it.
But this person wasn't. I mean, one of them who was saying all that about Glenn was an academic. You said, right? Was a professor.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. So yeah, I stand corrected. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is degenerating so soon. Yeah. And actually, we get to that with the whole, well, with our next. Yeah, we'll get.
Yeah. So then the other video, I mean, you're right now that you mentioned this. It is very similar. So Glenn Greenwald responds to criticism from a critique, and he called him Stephen Fritz. And I mean, I'll just give like an overview of what I got. I mean, this Stephen Fritz guy just came with like the most basic kind of questions and criticisms that you would like, you've heard people make towards Glenn Greenwald, and he really had nothing to back them up. So it's kind of as if he was just giving layups for Glenn to dunk on. He would say like, Glenn, you've been going on Tucker Carlson, but never challenge him. I mean, how many times have we heard that sentence, right? So Glenn Greenwald was just ready immediately. So, I mean, you can even like make a little bit of criticism to Glenn Greenwald. Maybe he picked somebody that was just too easy. I mean, I didn't see the list of the people who challenged him, but I mean, he easily managed to make a video where point by point go counter some kind of, basic criticisms that are made towards him. We found one to be interesting, and I wanted you to talk about that. I mean, I don't know if you have something else you want to say about that, but about Citizens United. But I don't know if you want to say something more
that
generally.
was a interesting topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, first, just generally, yeah, I just want to say, yeah, I definitely agree with you, but I don't think it was like, I don't think he picked him up just so it would be easy, but it was the guy, like, again, he seemed like the nicest man ever, but he just, I'm sorry, but if you're going to criticize somebody, do some research, like everything, like he could have pushed back, not that I agree with, I generally agree with Glenn, but like some of the things Glenn said, you could have pushed back, but when you haven't done any, and he would say, I haven't looked into this. I have before 2016, I wasn't into politics.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean like if you're not like you don't know anything that happened before 2006. I don't get it. So it was a bit disappointing because it was basically the shittiest, I think. Like not shittiest, the most toothless. Sorry,
Yeah.
most toothless. And but again, though, it's so hard to find a good faith critic, and I think he was a good faith critic. So
he
I
was
think
definitely
that was why he was picked. It was not somebody who tried to twist somebody's words or whatever. So
Yeah, he was a good critic. You're right there. And I mean, I might be exaggerating. Maybe he pushed back once or twice, but he really I mean, anytime Glenn would finish his finish like making his point, the only way he would push back, and it's not really a pushback, was just to ask another question about another topic, right? So like that was like the extent of him challenging Glenn.
there was one thing that he managed to find a quote from him before appearing on Tucker Carlson on any, and he was saying that I think it was 2013 or something, you said that some people are so odious or some are so bad that you should never try to even align. Like that was interesting when he did some research. So that was good. But yeah, that's like that was the only like it felt, as you say, it felt like very easy. And I suppose in a way, though, when the criticisms are so empty, it is generally easy to respond. So
yeah. I mean, I have one analogy though, as per usual, but I would like to save that about the very end discussion about this video. But before that, do you want to talk about the Citizens United part a bit? Because I've, to be honest, I've never listened or went back and listened fully to what Glenn says about Citizen United. So I'm really interested about that. So if you could just talk about that a bit.
Well, simply put, because I don't remember the details, simply put, Citizen United basically allowed corporations to, it's famously said that money equals speech by the people in the left. That's how it's been described, and allows corporations to contribute to political candidates or to political causes with no I think not candidates, political causes specifically. That's why super PACs can't directly meet with the politician. I think again, I don't remember the details because it was so long ago. Glenn Greenwald was always one of the very few people on the left. Well, he wouldn't describe himself as on the left, I suppose. So it was one of the few people who was from the critical of the establishment, blah, 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 that was not so critical of this. And this is, I'm sure a lot of our viewers, a lot of other people know that a lot of people on the left, more specifically, or some people actually on the right as well, they say Citizens United allowed black money and dark money to get into politics, and it has led to more corruption and has led to, significant degeneration of politics, blah, blah, blah. I personally, I don't agree, because and I think it's childish to think that, because there was about 150 years of American history before that, and about 3,000 years of human history before that. So you can, and there are many countries right now that have public funding for, including UK, for example, for elections. So I don't, first of all, if you do think that you're a child, I think. Secondly, that if that's a crucial thing, it's kind of like people who think Glass-Steagall change of the Glass-Steagall was a law that separated commercial banking from investment banking, repealed during Clinton years. They think that was the crucial thing. It wasn't. The whole system was anyway. Glenn's arguments, though, and my arguments,
So the first thing that you're saying is that Citizens United's impact on politics is probably overblown. So that's kind of one point, right?
That's yes, but that's not what Glenn says.
I understand.
Don't want to miss.
Gotcha.
It's just yes. Glenn's argument, he comes from a far more legalistic, I suppose, argument or something, which was my view at the same time, was that how do you, if you say organizations cannot contribute to political causes, then how are unions, for example, or let's say NGOs are allowed to, for example, contribute to political causes? I mean, I'm putting it very simplistically. I highly recommend everybody go to listen to the actual thing. But that's it's a very simple argument from my point of view, that if you do that, then only individual people should be allowed to, I suppose, contribute to political causes, or it should only be done through public. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. I think unions, and look, if I say unions, then automatically corporations too, they need to be allowed to contribute to political causes.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm just really thinking about, because me also, Citizens United is something I've always heard, it's not good. It's not good. And I'm sure, in addition to what you said, there are other reasons that it's not good. I mean, I don't think it maybe made politics better or anything like that. But I had never thought about it in that way. Right now I'm just thinking, you could always say for-profit organizations maybe shouldn't be able to partake. You could make some distinctions like this if you maybe if you wanted to.
But I was thinking about that, let's say organizations that 50% of shares or ownership is in the hands of employees, or you could put all these things, but I do feel I don't know, I feel like it's a bit, it's just it feels like tinkering with the details, while details that do not matter that much. And
okay, interesting. And then what other criticisms did he respond to? I mean, he responded to the simple one about him going on Tucker Carlson and all that. I mean, he says, anybody who invites me on mainstream media, I'll come.
Enabling the right.
If Rachel Maddow wants to invite me and all this, more than welcome. So that was another one. Can you think of any other ones that really come to mind? I mean, there were all the criticisms that people have heard a million times, very basic ones. So just to wrap this one up, I can just give you my little analogy. As per usual, I related to MMA and boxing, but it kind of reminded me of that because, I mean, I guess you have to accept the premise that the Stephen Fritz guy would have liked to, come, and he was hoping, to kind of get Glenn with his questions, right? I'm guessing to some extent, he was hoping that he wouldn't be losing every
He
single
seemed too nice.
exchange. Yeah. And it just kind of reminded me of, like, they always talk about this in like MMA and boxing. They're like, if like the other fighter's really good and they're better than you can't just hope that they make a mistake. You have to do something to like put them in a position that they make a mistake, and then you can take advantage of him. When the Stephen Fritz guy, he seemed like he was making that exact mistake. He was hoping that just through the question that he was asking, a very simple question, that Glenn was gonna like get himself in trouble through his answers. But of course he wasn't, and he had no backing to kind of like push him and like force Glenn to at least say something that he wouldn't want to say, or kind of make a mistake. So I don't know if you got that analogy, but that's kind of the feeling I was getting. He was hoping that Glenn would trip on his shoelaces himself without like forcing him to trip,
to run.
to exactly, for something to happen. So I just kind of had that image in my head the whole time.
I feel like he seemed super nice, and I don't even think he was. I don't think he was planning to trip anyone. He just,
well, I'm sure he would have wanted. Well, I'm sure he would have wanted to, like, for a few of those, for Glenn to be like, yeah, you are right, or like, or like, or say something messed up. I don't know, like, yeah.
Oh no, I don't think that. I think he was hoping for, oh, you're right. I never saw it from that nice perspective. Not trip. I don't know. He seemed too nice to be wanting to do that.
Yeah, true. Maybe not trip in too bad of a way, but yeah, for Glenn to realize that, there's something wrong with his thinking and
have
stuff.
a come to Jesus moment.
Yeah, exactly. But he didn't force him into making that mistake. But okay.
Yeah.
I feel like we need at least one analogy per video, but I hope you appreciate the discipline there. I left it for the end. I was telling myself not to jump not to jump in with the analogy first thing in the video, which I tend to do, just get really excited over it. But okay, Sam, 2 more videos left now with Glenn Greenwald. There's identity politics and there's the crypto blockchain one. Which one do you want to go? Which one should we do first?
Well, let's do identity, because that's the one I know about a bit. Because the other one, I just phased out after a while.
Oh yeah, but, I'll talk about a little bit the other one. So just quickly, again, as I mentioned, so Glenn had a debate on identity politics with Judith Butler, who's a philosopher, like we said, Cornel West, and this other moderator who's probably also some kind of professor, Simon Critchley. He was kind of one of these active moderators that they do a lot, which sees both sides and says some nice stuff and funny things, and had
he was
pages.
Part of the discussion, I would say.
Yeah, pretty much pages and pages worth of notes. But yeah, why don't you get us also going with this one? What struck you the most? And one of the more interesting things is that all 3 of them started the conversation with what is identity politics, and what shouldn't count as identity politics, which I guess was like the more fundamental question there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yes, and I must say, it was, first of all, just if anybody watched that, the beginning was just so long, like the introduction. I remembered why academic debates are so boring. They do these bullshit introductions for like hours, and everybody just keeps, oh, you're great. No, you're great. No, you're great. Anyways, but it was a great video, great substantive video. Cornel West, I genuinely don't understand like half of the time what he's saying, because I love Cornel West's politics. I agree with pretty much everything he says, except the whole sentimental God blah blah bullshit. I don't. But then again, I find it difficult. Like, I wish there was more clarity to things in debate. But yeah, Judith Butler is basically from the camp that says that identity politics matters, and inclusion of people from a specific ethnicity or identity is crucial to progressing and improving the material conditions and of our world. Glenn is not of that position. Cornel West, I'm not quite sure. He's like, you wrote down notes of what he says and you read it, it seems like he's agreeing with Glenn pretty much.
Yeah, I
but
got
the
the same
tone,
feeling.
it's like he's disagreeing with everybody. The tone is like, I don't know what's going on. So that was interesting. But for example, there was one really good example, which I really enjoyed, that in my view, distilled the debate and led to Glenn winning the debate, basically.
I think I know what you're saying. And she slipped there. That was, I think I know what you're saying. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, because when you actually when you bring identity politics into real political realities and pragmatism, it's so idiotic that it doesn't work. Okay, my view, by the way, is that the left needs to decide either these categories are real or these categories are made by, let's say, the larger capitalist system to exploit us and to divide us. If you can make your choice there, then you know where you stand in this debate. Anyway, she says that, for example, I noticed here in our debate, there is no woman of color. As if, anyway. And then as if like a woman of color is different from a woman when it comes to, like, she doesn't say why there is no, let's say, I think one of them is a journalist, one of them is two of them are a philosopher. Why isn't there a psychological expert here? Why isn't there an economic expert? Like something tangible, something real. No, why isn't there a woman of color here? As if color automatically gives you an insight into racial. I've known many people of color who are racist towards their own color and have no idea what race or racial structures. Anyways, and then Glenn comes out with let's think about that in realistic terms. Which woman of color? Should we ask Kamala Harris, or should we ask, for example, a woman of color who's a nurse, for example, in a hospital in Chicago? I don't know. It's that's the whole point, isn't it? Like, are we individuals or are we a bunch of people who are defined by our genetic or whatever? It's not even genetic, because there's more genetic diversity in sub-Sahara Africa. So I think that and the rest of the debate, I feel, was a lot of, to be honest, things that people hate academics for, which is just giving branches and just I don't know, just okay, that was it for me. The debate finished there.
Yeah, no, exactly. Same here. And I mean, that's why you say that the conversation was substantial, but kind of found it to be like, half interesting. And exactly what she said there, that's the kind of slip that Stephen Fritz was hoping that Glenn would make. Because I mean, she just gave that to Glenn on a platter with that, like, seemed like she lost like concentration or something, just simply saying like, if a woman of color was here, and then Glenn was able to immediately come back with that. And then she tried to like change it. Then she was like, no, I meant like a professor, like, and then she named like 2 or 3 professors who are, I'm assuming, of African-American descent or something. But that's different. Then say that, that is different. And sure, if there are like, if it's like a place, sorry, just asking, if there's like a place with, like, it's somewhere where decisions are made and there are 10 white men of the age of 50, and that's only them, then you'll be like, how about we just get like a female of color in there, just like a random one? Then that I understand if you just say woman. But I mean, here within this discussion, there's already like 3 of you, and then you just say, why isn't there like, a woman of color? Then, as Glenn said, why isn't there this? Why isn't there that? And she just gave a very generic, why isn't there a generic this person from that race? And and Glenn jumped on that to really show the weakness of that kind of argument.
Sure. Look, I think if my view is that if, for example, if you look at in academia, as you say, or any field that it's all dominated at the top by men of certain age or women of certain age or of ethnicity of certain age, that is a reflection of a problem within the society, right? And you can't, I mean, I do believe in I believe in top to bottom approaches. I've never been a fan of bottom up approaches like grassroots movements or anything. But in this, like, I do think in this specific case, though, like, you can't change a society by forcing, or by cosmetics. Maybe you can actually, if you do it in a material, like you put working class people or people from different like, fields of expertise. But just, I think color of a skin is as important and as your like texture of your hair, if it's like a straight or if it's curly or anything. So I don't know, I just think it's an idiotic thing to just categorize, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say two things.
Okay? I think go case by case basis. For example, let's say you live in a society when there's ethnicity that for 100 years has been what do you say, has been excluded from education of any level, right? And then what if you put suddenly two of them in the cabinet of that government, like if they don't know how to even speak, let's say there is like not even a bare minimum, like that doesn't help anything. So it case by case, it go case by case.
No, 100%.
And don't care about color.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say one thing. I mean, we don't care about color, but I mean, in the society that, past, I don't know how many hundreds of years, we've given special meanings and definitions to colors and put people in specific socioeconomic circumstances. So skin color has come to mean something. So I get it in that way. But if not, I understand what you're saying generally. And the other thing of, I mean, let's put one female here and one Asian person here and this, that, to show diversity. I mean, that's exactly what organizations, who don't care about diversity, because it has nothing to do with their day-to-day activity, like corporations or any other organizations. That's exactly what they do to just... Democratic Party. Oh, they just do that to tick a box, right? And, for you to leave them alone and not come after them, and say, why are there only men on the board? No, what are you talking about? X, Y, and Z. So, I mean, she just really opened it up to a very easy conversation that really showed the issue with that kind of identity politics. But, and then, what do you think is identity politics when you think about it? Yeah, say what you want and then answer that.
Oh, I was just saying, I don't want to, by the way, like I'm talking about the situation in which there are no more laws excluding people from, like suddenly, let's say, shift to a world where there is, of course, any discriminatory law, or, for example, there are studies that show that if you use a black name or if you have a black picture or if you're from ethnicity, you're less likely to get a job. Of course, those things should definitely be, exist and be addressed. But I don't think, like, when you're having a discussion about identity politics or economy, you should focus on, as you said, like, let's have experts, whether they are black or white or whatever. But in my view, what is identity politics? In my view,
I can tell you what comes to my mind when I think of really like typical shady identity politics. What I understand as identity politics is
when it's weaponized, basically.
Yeah, like saying, and what I understand is saying, like, vote for Hillary Clinton just because she's a woman, and vote for Kamala Harris just because she's a woman of color. I mean, that is kind of my understanding of why identity politics is and why it's shit on by a lot of people, and I agree with that, if that's your understanding, which is kind of mine.
Yeah, same, but I would give them their point is technically is that, look, if you have somebody from, let's say, black background, they're more likely to know about the black experience, and therefore they're more likely to be representative of the views and the interest of that community. So that's their argument. But I think there are more than enough historical examples that to prove that's completely bullshit. So.
And they should be, and the right person should be. I mean, like if a female person finally does become the president of the US, I mean, they've obviously lived through a different experience. So, it will be good, and they will understand a different representation of a different group of people. But only being a woman and saying that is, of course,
I don't know. I don't
not
believe
enough.
that too.
I mean, there's some to it. If you grow up in a certain area, or if you're something, you might have learned something in a different way. Now, that might not be drastically enough. Yeah, that might not be even
each
significant
individual's
drastically.
Life is different. So
yeah,
100%. I don't get that. I mean, I never got that. Those maybe it is for other people. No, it's never been. I never felt that way. But
and it's blown out of proportion.
I never
and
felt Sorry, so I just never felt representative of any group or anything or any community, and I never felt anybody else was a representative of any grouping. They were, as far as I was concerned, representative of themselves. So yeah, I think it's just, but I would say yeah, it's, I just like, for example, look at, like, it's not just about black, white, by the way. Nixon came from very working class background. I mean, that was why he had the whole persecution complex going on. But he couldn't go to Yale or Harvard. I forget. He couldn't go to one of them because his family need him to stay and work and all that. And what did he, when he got to power, was he a great representative of the working classes? No, he wasn't. So
yeah, exactly,
and I can
right?
give you a million other examples.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sometimes it's exactly the opposite way, right? I mean, you can even go back again to the black and white example. There are maybe some white people who are, no, I mean, just like some white people who are much better champions of like all things that impact like a black community than a black person, is.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're like, that's what I like. I never like opposed racism because of like it like affects other people in a negative way. I just felt like I hated the idea because it affects me in a negative way as well. Like because if you put those guys in a box, I'm in a different box, right?
Yeah.
So I think even white people, like fighting against racism, they're fighting in their own benefit, because if there is quote unquote black people, then there is quote unquote white people. And what the fuck does that like, so me and Hitler are all in, like, I'm not, but you know what I mean, like we are all in the same category, but
so, yeah, exactly. And I mean, I feel like this has a lot to do with the Bad Fate podcast that we'll discuss too. I mean, those terms were thrown around very loosely. The Bad Fate podcast about the Beatles.
Yes.
So we'll get
Although to that. I had a very different view listening to the end of that. Anyway.
Okay, yeah. They're good stuff. Okay, and then let's just.
But did you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just did you find anything else in Cornel? Because I really, maybe it was because I have just shitty listening or English school. But did you find Cornel West? I don't know. Did you find anything? Like, they talk about the spirituality a lot, and I don't really get it. They did talk about, apparently there are courses in a university that are being redesigned not to include European like thinkers, which I thought was awful. Like, as if European authors are like belong to white people or something.
Yeah.
I mean, Alexander Dumas, like, this is a fictional writer, but he was like half black. So anyway, but so yeah, I don't know. Did you find any things interesting by Judith Butler, Cornel West, Glenn?
No, nothing else besides what we've talked about. And I mean, for me, one reason that I've never been like a huge Cornel West like super fan or anything is just because a lot of time I don't quite 100% get the message clearly. But yeah, that's just me. I don't know if maybe others do much better, but I understand that sentiment of yours.
Yes, exactly. No substantive criticism. It's just simply, it's like opposite of Adolf Reed. I understand Adolf Reed, but with Mr. West, I just get really lost about things he's talking about. It's about a lot of brothers.
But he's so nice to people and stuff too. I love how he was like looking at Glenn on the screen too. He was like just shifted his attention to all over the places.
He was even nice to Pete Buttigieg, which was
that's where you heard that fact then that you threw at me, or you knew that from before. I mean, maybe you knew it from before, but
no, I knew. I read
also mentioned it here, so just mention it.
Oh yeah, Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris's. I mean, Kamala Harris, everybody knows. His father is a famous Marxist, not Marxist, neo-Keynesian Marxist, like economist, focusing on Haitian economy, if I'm not mistaken. Haitian or Jamaican? I really apologize. I don't remember. Pete Buttigieg's father was the translator of Gramsci's work.
Yeah, that's the funniest.
Again, another Marxist. I mean, it was interesting to me because you see it all over. Like you see it with Miliband family in the UK. Ed Miliband and David Miliband is now head of an international like rescue something organization. Ed Miliband just got reshuffled in the shadow cabinet, pretty much demoted. He's a leftish, center-leftish politician. Their father, Ralph Miliband, who I like, one of my theses, I referenced him heavily. He was a famous British author writing about how British media sort of kind of explaining how Gramscian power works and how media helps kind of manufacturing consent before manufactured consent. Fantastic work. I highly recommend Ralph Miliband to everybody. I believe a Jewish escapee from Nazis who stayed in London and all that. And then you got, interestingly, like in India, you got the whole Gandhi family. Like it's and each generation gets more centrist. Which is fascinating. Like with Romney family, like, you know, Mitt Romney's Cuomo's family. I mean, there are more politicians, but even there in those guys, you see more gravitas towards center. It seems when you become loyalty.
But the Pete Buttigieg one is like extra funny, I find, because the Kamala one is like
a CIA guy. Yeah, that's super funny.
And like kind of like a plain CIA guy, right? Because the Kamala Harris one, so her dad was an academic, so she was. I mean, I'm pretty sure she's also academically gifted in some areas because lawyer and prosecutor and all this. And then they go kind of in separate ways, but not. I mean, I don't even know the father that well.
I don't know,
how
man.
Separate,
how drastic.
But the Pete Buttigieg, but the Pete Buttigieg one is just like, so the dad translates Gramsci. So I'm guessing is very like, you know, book intellectual person, and then his son is just like an empty kind of seeming guy from you know, outside. So it's just the contrast seems extra to me here.
That's true. Although you could argue that Gramsci, in a way, was like a lot of stuff Gramsci writes about his strategies and the things he talks about is kind of like, I think it seems like right-wing read Gramsci better than left-wing. I feel sometimes. So anyway, because maybe his son just put in Gramsci's things into action. But it is, I would say prosecutors. Yes, he's kind of worse, but I would say prosecutor is also so weird. It's like, it's like finding out, I don't know, Trump had a Marxist anarchist brother.
Yeah, it is.
It's
exactly the same, right? Because it's not like if Trump had like a empty-headed leftist brother, that wouldn't like, you know, be that surprising. But enough, if you have like a bookworm, you know, like just like the complete opposite. He doesn't even need to be a leftist. Like imagine he was like apolitical,
intellectual.
Yeah.
No,
like a physicist or something, like
feminist.
anything.
Third-wave feminist or that like they won't even look into women's like eyes because that might be too like imposing. It is. It's all true. It's an odd thing out there, but that was Mr. West is the nicest man, and I'm not criticizing him. I'm criticizing myself for I lose the threads sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. Let's move on to our last Glenn video. So this one was called Cryptocurrency and Blockchain Liberation or Hoax. interview with a left-wing crypto advocate. And the gentleman, well, we hear his voice, so we know it's a man. He goes by the name of Blockchain Socialist, and he has a website where he writes very actively. I was on it today, where he writes blogs about blockchain and especially cryptocurrency, of course, and how, it can be associated with leftist and socialist movements. So for people who aren't really too much into blockchain or cryptocurrency like myself, you're not like a Bitcoin fanatic or own some or think that it's going to solve the world, every problem out there, this is a good one. It's a nuanced conversation. I wasn't surprised to hear that Glenn was also interested in this topic for quite a while, but he just thinks that he doesn't know enough to really come out and talk about it. So this was good. So I would say a lot of the video was just they were talking about typical like leftist subjects, like socialist subjects. And I would classify the guy, in a way, to be a very typical socialist in a sense, although he makes some criticisms of socialism, which maybe make him a bit different. I'll get into them, but in a lot of ways, he was a very like your average socialist, he seemed to me, except he had the whole blockchain angle. So here, is there his main, I guess, argument, the guy, is that you can use blockchain and cryptocurrency in order, especially cryptocurrency, the example given, but also blockchain technology and its other applications, in order to overcome issues that the left wants to overcome. And they don't really give too many examples of how it could be done. That could be one of my criticisms. But again, we're at the early stages of this technology. But the example that they use is that when the US government kind of banned everybody and every service like PayPal from able to get money to WikiLeaks, they used Bitcoin back there in order to, still get funding. So I guess they would receive Bitcoins and then go sell them and turn it into money. So besides that, I can't really think of another example that they gave with its application other now in the future, but that's not too much of a criticism. It's at the early stages of this technology. Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
No, I'm sorry, but that's like the biggest like it's yeah. First of all, you told me this. I don't know. You don't stay anonymous when you buy a crypto or when you buy Bitcoin.
It's very interesting. Bitcoin. It's very interesting. In the part where they start talking about crypto, even he mentions it himself, that you do stay anonymous. Okay, your name is not there, right? But it doesn't mean that you're absolutely untraceable, right? I think he said that you're kind of half anonymous, because pretty much you can go and find whatever that exchange was made, and I think from there you can kind of backpedal to what address it would use and then identify it to the person, right? So a lot of scams that go on with cryptocurrency and criminal activities, they do go find it, right? So even he in the video, and I really liked how he mentioned that there's anonymity, but not like it's impossible to track you down. Do you get what I'm saying? So if the US government wants to go find out who these people were that gave money to,
it's hard, but they can do it.
They can, but he would say, but okay, but that's one thing, and B, they weren't able to stop the actual transfer of the money. So maybe he would say,
anyway, one of the reasons I got bored from the video was that they didn't give any examples. Like, I'm sorry, but just talking about, okay, governments cannot exactly like monitor activities, but they can trace it later. How is that supposed to help anything?
Well, I guess, like I just said, it would say you can still give the money. And also when you expand the technology, and then again, here, there are no concrete examples, but he gives the example of Twitter, right? He's like, so when we use Twitter, we send a message. If I want to tweet something and send it to everybody, just put it on my page, it goes through Twitter. Twitter, like, accepts it very quickly and puts it on your page. Whereas with blockchain technology and all this, you could there would be no middleman, so you can kind of exchange messages, just kind of like how you can exchange, I guess, like pirated videos and emails. I guess it goes through Outlook, so I guess you could just have that, or goes through whatever service where there's a middleman. But with blockchain technology,
I know, but there is always going to be a server somewhere.
And exactly, that's the thing. I mean, everybody else is kind of the middleman, right? Like, I mean, how does, again, we're getting really technical, and then I'll just say the other points. For instance, based on what I understand, how did they verify a blockchain transaction? A bunch of people actually verify it. So there's no central authority, but a bunch of people who are mining, they kind of verify this transaction. And then through the mining of new Bitcoins, that transaction gets approved. So it's just that a centralized administrative middleman is removed, and it becomes like everybody is kind of the middleman in like whenever you use blockchain technology. But we can come back to that a bit, but if not, we can also talk about the other stuff. I mean, they compared it a lot to the internet, which I found to be extremely premature and overblown right now. I mean, in blockchains, like what, 12 years of, history so far, it hasn't proved to be as useful as a lot of its advocates claim to be. So maybe the internet took a bit longer to become useful too.
So, no, sorry, wait a minute. I just don't understand how, you say maybe it's too early, I don't understand. What is their argument? What can it do?
That is my main criticism of that video too, right? Because, okay, so Glenn says that, some people just, whenever you talk about crypto and blockchain, there has this knee-jerk reaction. They're like, oh, it's crap, it's blah, 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 right? So then he mentioned Democrats and Hillary Clinton. So it starts from there. And then, he's like, but I feel like there is more to it. And I do feel like there's a lot more to it, but not necessarily in ways of advancing your political ambitions, which is what the central theme of this video was. And I agree with you. And I agree with you there. Did you kind of get what I'm saying? I agree.
Not like I get what you're saying. I don't get what they're saying at all.
I said, they didn't have enough examples to show, or even possible future examples. I mean, they talk about how the technology could apply, but that's exactly. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, very sorry about this. And I do have invested some money in crypto. So, just like
I agree with you. So
other idiot. No, I'm sorry at everybody. I'm sorry to say this, but I don't get crypto NFTs. Is that what they call them? These digital goddamn things that are sort of IP'd by blockchains or some bullshit. All of these are toy store money, nothing more. And since, by the way, 1970s, when dollar became fiat, all the money pretty much, it's all floating out there. Everything is toy store money. It's just worth as much as everybody believes in its worth. Dollar is toy store money. We're all living in a goddamn fantasy because of the declining rate of profit has meant there is nothing there. So we are just, this is all goddamn bubbles. And I don't know. I feel like crypto has just because it gives you a slight protection from central government's authority, or banking, it should be a game changer. First of all, besides the fact that even internet wasn't that much of a game changer, I don't understand how. Can somebody explain to me this? A will lead to B, will lead to C, and this is how could these type of currencies could lead to a better. I don't get it.
I mean, that's a perfect question. And let me just say something. So Glenn asks a bunch of times, he's like, why don't more radical leftists, open to this technology and stuff? And that is the exact same reason, because what you just said is the reason why I understand why people are put off even by blockchain or cryptocurrencies, because it's been promised so much bullshit and so much crap that have nothing to do with anything. And just to be a little bit more fair, we've reduced blockchain to kind of cryptocurrency, which is just one application of it. So blockchain can be used in a host of other services, ways to store information. But then again, sure, that's cool. Again, just like you said, I don't understand how that leads to, everyone's in every way problem being solved, which is just this over PR that's been attached to cryptocurrency and blockchain that's just made all these kind of what appear to be bullshit, promises, if you ask me too. And I'm someone who's for some reason interested in this. I don't quite understand how or why, but I somehow am.
Does the decentralized system of it means that nobody can manipulate it?
So nobody can manipulate. I mean, I don't know the first thing that's coming to my head is that not the decentralized part, but the blockchain technology prevents tampering with information. So that I understand. I don't know if that has to do with the decentralization. And also, as we've probably discussed this, the decentralization is also blown out of proportion, right? Like in maybe the first year was decentralized, but then all the mining went to China and
now it's back to US.
US and yeah. So that's the mining of Bitcoin. And then you can talk about who owns most of Bitcoins. I'm pretty sure that too becomes very centralized in some areas. But yeah, and then what else? And I mean, Glenn tried to push one of his kind of common topics there, which is like, but everything that you're saying, he was telling the guy, right-wing people can also think the same, right? So wouldn't it be good if like right wings and leftist people got together in order to, protect this technology from the establishment and not let the establishment to crush it? So he threw those things in there, and that guy, he was like very honest. He was like, well, I think everything that the right does is bad, so I hope they don't use it. So he was like actually the typical leftist that Glenn, would poke a few arguments. Yeah. But I'm just looking at my notes, anything else? And
that's actually one criticism. It reminded me of a thing I wanted to say, but I forgot about the last video we talked about. Not last video, the 3 videos ago we talked about the one about the Stephen Fritz or whatever his name was. That I think if there was one criticism of Glenn, is this, in my view, is this idea that if we go on Tucker Carlson, we can change the minds. To be fair, I would say when Trump was in the White House, that was 4 years that, in my view, it was worth going to Tucker Carlson because you knew he was watching. So you had a specific audience in mind. But the idea that, if we foster conversation between right and left, populist or academic or otherwise, because what like Glenn and other people are trying to do, this like populist left and right come together, and then you have Kamala Harris and Mitt Romney trying to bring left and right on the top together, and they are equally, in my view, they're equally damned to fail.
I mean, Glenn could say, if I was Glenn, I would come back with this response, but I think he would think that his impact is much more, which I would say, like, fine, if I go on Fox News, maybe 2 or 3 people only out of this huge audience, might not have heard what I've said before too much, or for some reason now they'll think about it, which is good. But yeah, having an impact at a mass level by going on Fox News, on the audience there, I completely understand your skepticism.
No, I would say, I think, to be honest, I want to promote my ideas in whatever level. I don't give a shit if it's not even a very big level. And I'm sure they pay like you when you go on Fox News, right?
I don't know, but I mean, I'm pretty sure it's worth going on it, even if you don't get paid.
Yeah, that's the thing. I want to get the exposure, right? Like in online following, whatever. And if they pay me, they pay me. So that's why I go. Fuck you. Like that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Like it's really funny. We should feel sorry for all the government workers that go to jobs and they are serving a far worse masters than people who go on Fox News, people who work for government, public employees. But we are like, we feel so sorry for you. Why? Because they need the money. All right. Yeah. People want money. And this childish, why did you go there? Why did you go there?
No, I agree with you there. And I just want to actually bring you back to the video for 1 second. And this isn't necessarily about crypto and blockchain, because at first I said the person blockchain socialist is kind of your typical socialist. Except he said one thing that was a bit interesting. I was thinking about it, but I think you can maybe help me with thinking with this, because maybe there's some flaws in what he said. He said the left is always so the leftist people are always looking for government-based solutions, right? I don't know if you caught that, but he's like, we always think about government-based solutions. And he's like,
grassroots,
we always
people
think
coming
of
together.
government or private, but there's like a third one, alternative. And he gave one decent example, it's the only one he gave, which are unions, right? He gave the example of unions. And it just made me think, what would you classify unions as, I guess? Like let's say if you see them as a solution, I guess they're not a government-based solution, and they're not like
they are a government-based solution.
Are they?
Many they're not a government-based solution in that sense, but many governments around the world ban unions or only allow a state licensed, the state sponsored unions. So without having a state that is within, unions again are a reflection of a society that is moving forward, in my view. When you have a strong unions, usually not always, and if it's not an ethno state and all that, it means that society's workers are having better lives. They can organize, so they are organizing. But the idea that there are alternatives to a state is just, I don't know.
Yeah, sorry. And so I'm glad you could frame that better than me. And I was thinking, like, even okay, let's say you go and you're a third one, right? So you're kind of like people coming together, grassroots kind of solution. Ultimately, you want to channel that power towards influencing government policies, right? Right? Am I missing something here in my thinking? I don't know.
No, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. Grassroots organizations, of course, and NGOs play a role, especially when, sadly, a state has so retreated so far back that they don't want to do so many of their duties, in my view, responsibilities, but functions.
Mm-hmm.
But the real solution is having a really functioning state, not just coming up with these patchworks of grassroots organizations.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Okay, but if people are interested in more kind of blockchain and cryptocurrency, you can listen to the first half of the video, but in the first half, they barely talk about the technology, and it's just normal leftist kind of stuff. The second half I found to be more interesting in that sense.
And by the way, I thought, if anybody explains this to me, maybe I'm completely wrong. I have no...
Yeah, me too.
It's not as... I'm just looking for explanation.
Yeah, me too. But yeah. One thing that I think they forgot to mention is just the amount of... everything in mass society and is embroiled in bullshit. But, cryptocurrency and blockchain, oh boy, have they been embroiled in bullshit and bullshit promises from every single side that you can imagine for the past, since 2008.
Look, I don't know about more bullshit than others, because since childhood I've been told books, they open your mind, and they don't. They not necessarily. Everything is seeps into bullshit pretty much and over promises. So
I'm glad you brought the book thing later on. Not now, but later on I would like to talk about something, because I have a very similar...
Your anti-book stance.
I have a similar thought about certain kind of books and certain pressures. But okay, anything else to mention about Glenn?
No, but well done. I believe he's... I think he is... Oh, in Brazil, there must be Coke, must be more widely available, I assume, because it's near Colombia. So I cannot have any other explanation for putting out 3 videos a day, about 30,000 tweets. And I believe he also does interviews on 60 different channels.
Took part in a debate.
He rescuing dogs on the way.
Yeah, and he's taking part in a full-on debate remotely.
And rescuing dogs while doing the debate. Johnny doing a vaccine injection for dog. It's just...
No, it's surreal.
I don't know what's going on there.
Like I was just telling you, it's not that he's only productive, but his productivity leads to an immediate output that's like a finished product. I could be productive for a week, which means I might be prepared for this show. Like at best, no, he would have wrapped it up on that day, put the video on YouTube, it's over. So like his productivity actually reaches an end goal within like a few hours. Yeah, on a
There have
consistent,
been
crazy
like
basis.
yeah, there have been weeks that I've gone hungry because I didn't want to go to the shop like in front of my house. And this guy, I don't know, yeah. Or I didn't want to like order food online even.
All right, Sam, let's keep this party going. So our next videos that we're going to talk about is by Useful Idiots. So they did an interview with Oliver Stone about his new documentary on JFK. And before that, they talked about the Lauren Boebert lady and like the crazy stuff that she said towards Ilhan Omar, and also her apology, which was just next level stupid and cringe. I mean, it was just so cringe. And yeah, I think it gave Matt Taibbi a headache to a certain extent, or maybe he had a headache before that. I didn't get the headache thing. I think maybe Matt Taibbi had a headache, but yeah.
No, he had a headache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she completely threw Matt Taibbi off his whole analytical like positions and thinking process as well, I feel, with her comments. But yeah, what do you want to start with first? You want to talk about Oliver Stone a little bit first and what that whole interview was about?
Sure. And yeah, I'd like to mention that there's a bit of a substance at the end regarding the issue. Like I thought we can talk about this issue, which is politics getting, let's say, within US and globally to an extent, is it getting more degenerative and more violence, and are the words being exchanged far more harsh than it used to be, blah blah blah.
Oh, that's a big one we should talk about. That was kind of what I was
so I just wanted to say, there is some, like, the other parts are a bit more just look at this, isn't that funny? But he's Oliver Stone has made this documentary. He's making the rounds. Actually, he was on the Chapel Trap House as well. He did an interview with those guys,
even
with
they
his
got him.
Yeah. He's doing the rounds. I think he was on the Gray Zone and on some other progressive things as well.
Sorry, can I ask you a question? I'm so sorry. Is the person who he's doing it with, is it that same historian with who he did that whole series on Woodrow Wilson and World War II and all that, or is it someone different?
I remember that documentary a little bit because it was about like Truman, how Truman got into instead of.
Oh, true. I said Woodrow Wilson. Yeah, Truman. Yeah.
No. I think it starts with Wilson, but it ends with Roosevelt.
Yeah, I thought I confused the names.
The company man being put in place of, what was Roosevelt's original VP? The lefty guy, the guy who was.
I think that was him. No. Oh yeah.
No.
I thought his name. I thought his name was Wilson. No.
No. Wilson is before. Wilson is the World War I guy. League of Nations. Sorry. And then you have Roosevelt originally had this vice president who was probably like, if he was Roosevelt's vice president, when he died, he would have had a rapprochement with the Soviet Union. Yeah, most probably. But anyway,
Henry Wallace, I think.
Henry Wallace. Sorry, I always mix him with McGovern, who was Nixon's opponent. Anyway, what was it? Anyways,
sorry about that tangent. You were going to start from the beginning.
No, sorry. I don't know if it's the same guy or a different historian, but I just watched one episode, to be honest, of the documentary, and it's apparently it's an interesting documentary. The mainstream media is far more negative. The leftist circles are far more positive, but the documentary seems to be mostly about the fact how little we know, really, because it seems on purpose, maybe not, there was never much investigation done on the matter to clarify, and like the number of items from the scene of the crime were misplaced, and basically there's no way to know the truth in a way, but the official story is certainly, let's say, dodgy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was his thing. But I found the interview and his other interviews with Chapel Trap House and other ones quite interesting because they ask Oliver Stone something and he just answers about what he likes
What's
to
up?
talk about. He just reverses to no, the documentary is about this, and okay, yeah, or yeah, it's kind of fun. Most of the time, well,
Yeah.
not always, but yeah, I'm not a big fan
And-
of like yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, and does he advance? Yeah, because I listened to part of it, and based on what I understand, his documentary points out, and I guess it kind of goes with all the narratives that I've heard about the JFK thing, which was there seems to be been a bit of like incompetence, carelessness from the way he was protected by what's it called, by the secret forces during that day, and also how the investigation went after pretty much
Well,
no investigation.
he implies all of that was on purpose, though.
Yeah. So does he?
For example, one of the bodyguards, only
Mhm.
one of the bodyguards react on the scene, which he points out, I assume,
Yeah.
to as a thing.
And he also gives the example, of how the driver didn't put his foot on the gas after the first bullet, which I guess is standard protocol. So does he also advance a theory as to why perhaps they were so kind of either careless or they did it on purpose, really, as he's saying?
I've only seen one episode, and people who've seen the whole thing, they say not really, they don't advance anything. But I've heard from private interviews I've seen years ago, I think, or read, that Oliver Stone is more of a on the CIA did it type of sort of thing guy. I mean, there are others who say Cubans, others mafia, there are all these theories out there. But I would say, like, I think in the documentary, they don't necessarily let's say put forward their alternative theory. They are focused on just debunking the original. I would say no. My problem with Oliver Stone's narrative, it was with the last documentary as well, that, for example, Roosevelt was this, I remember reading, we did a whole thing about the dropping of the nuclear bomb. It's a major issue in historical historiography, basically. And the idea that if Roosevelt was like hadn't passed away, he wouldn't have dropped the bomb, I think is not really it's not really based on historical records, because Roosevelt was the one who started making the nuclear program more often, because originally it was an international program. But it became and it was like, I think Wallace wanted it too. Like, they were supposed to share secrets and all that, but they, Roosevelt was just far more cunning than Truman. He would have acted probably far more subtly. He has the same problem with JFK. He glorifies JFK as JFK was a anti-communist fanatic, and so was his brother, and pretty much brought the whole war to an end over the whole Cuban crisis. I mean, the idea that he would have brought about a significant detente,
yeah, I mean, like, pretty much don't, yeah, because now that you're saying that old documentary is coming to my mind, and yeah, I mean, he's always, when it comes about FDR, and he seems to be glorifying them, and there are a lot of things compared to other politicians, as everybody knows, they'll point out. But yeah, now I recall in the documentary he was kind of saying that before his death, Roosevelt was trying to, was meeting with the Russians, Stalin, and he was meeting with the English, and trying to, bring about peace faster and all that.
Sure.
So yeah.
Well, okay.
So yeah, I guess that's what he kind of would say. But yeah, I agree with you.
Sure. No, there are records that became declassified in the 70s, and there was a whole re-evaluation of why the bomb was dropped. And like, if you do history as an academic subject, it's pretty common knowledge that it's not clear, because there is no specific record of Roosevelt saying, yes, I want the nuclear program to be a national program and blah, blah, blah. but it's pretty. I think it's clear his intentions, and if you look at his history of the way he treated the South, and a lot of the way he excluded the black people from the New Deal. Anyway, but yeah, I think he does the same with JFK here, though. JFK was a very. My apologies for my, excuse my French, really, but he was a pussy hound who was a psycho. He was a son of a rich criminal who was just happy to be a first Catholic who got elected. Really, I like the idea that he was like anything beyond that. I think even Roosevelt was a serious man with all his flaws. I think he was very flawed, but he was a serious man and a serious actor. But JFK wasn't even that. JFK was
a serious actor, you said?
Yes, serious, like a serious actor in international politics.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. Yeah. No, for a second I thought I knew you weren't saying
Daniel Day-Lewis style.
No, I knew you didn't mean like acting, but I thought you meant like the way he like conveyed messages and stuff. I thought you meant more like that. Okay, an actor as in a player.
All right, no. Like Daniel Day-Lewis style. I mean, these are all my personal takes, by the way, but I do think if you look at evidence, it's just there's a bit of it's a bit of too much of looking for a hero into a story where there is not.
100%. And I mean, but Kennedy isn't necessarily that glorified by like other leftists, right? I would say.
No, I mean, yeah, you're right.
He's not hated. He's not hated as much though, but yeah, as other presidents.
Yeah, which I found very weird. I don't like Nixon either, but I never understood why they hate Nixon. I mean, I do understand because when Nixon was not the president, he was such a. But for Nixon though, I like Nixon because he was all like he didn't have like it was just about power, like pure power, like, not even like sex or being the first Catholic, like nothing. Just I want money, power, and I just. Anyway, but yeah, I don't understand why Kennedy is just liberal hero, I suppose. So. And I mean, as always, as I think Gore Vidal said, like just. I mean, he implied. I paraphrase when Truman Capote died, like death is it's fantastic as a PR move.
Oh yeah. I mean, unfortunately, it's unfortunate to say this and stuff, but yeah, even now, the most horrible people can die, and they try to rehabilitate his dead soul in mainstream media.
No, even not. Have you heard of this rapper guy recently about Tentacion XXX or something?
No.
He was like, I don't know why. He was supposed to be the highest like signed record deal ever, but he got killed. This guy was apparently he was a wife beater. Genuinely. I'm sorry, excuse my French again, but piece of shit. But like the way like some young people online like glorify him. Anyways, just death is a great move PR wise.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems to be the case. But okay, let's keep this going. So before the JFK interview with Oliver Stone, Matt Taibbi and Katie Halper revisit the whole Lauren Boebert comments and her apology after that towards Ilhan Omar. So I mean, everybody's seen it.
Fine. So we only had one floor to go, and I was like, do I say it or not? I looked over, and I said, oh, look, the Jihad Squad decided to show up for work today. Don't worry, it's just her staffers on Twitter that talk for her. She's not tough in person.
Everyone, this is Lauren with a quick update on a phone call I had today with squad member Ilhan Omar. I had reached out to her Friday, and 3 days later, I was able to connect with her on the phone because I wanted to let her know directly that I had reflected on my previous remarks. Now, as a strong Christian woman who values faith deeply, I never want anything I say to offend someone's religion. So I told her that.
Can you stop here for a second?
Even after
I never want anyone to think that I've offended someone's religion. You just got up in a public forum and basically said that anybody who's Muslim is a terror threat.
Suicide bomber, yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And the Jihad Squad, yeah.
Yeah.
She said that she still wanted a public apology because what I had done wasn't good enough. So I reiterated to her what I had just said. She kept asking for a public apology. So I told Ilhan Omar that she should make a public apology to the American people for her anti-American, anti-Semitic, anti-police rhetoric. She continued to press, and I continued to press back. And then Representative Omar hung up on me. Rejecting an apology and hanging up on someone is part of cancel culture 101 and a pillar of the Democrat Party. Make no mistake, I will continue to fearlessly put America first, never sympathizing with terrorists. Unfortunately, Ilhan can't say the same thing, and our country is worse off for it.
And I mean, personally, like, I wasn't shocked or surprised, but, you know, it's just so repulsive, you know, pretty much the things that she's saying. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the word that came to my mind. But then Matt Taibbi's reaction is also very interesting to talk about. But I don't know if you have anything else about the actual, you know, back and forth.
Yeah, I think she's a really, really repulsive human being. And like, you know, you had these good old racists like Barry Goldwater, that at least they had a class about their racism. This goddamn trash, low-level, sixth-rate. Jesus.
I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
She's 34, which, I mean, because when you listen to her excuse, it also sounds like it's a 15 or 16-year-old at best kind of talking. And at least she's 34. I thought she was maybe 44. Not that 34 is an excuse. I mean, you've been
that's I actually, when I googled her, it came out on the Wikipedia thing. Yeah. She's 34, and it made me so goddamn sad. That, can you imagine, this 34 years old is a congressperson, and I, like a lot of people, including myself, about the same age, haven't achieved shit. And in a way, this complete dumbass, like a complete somebody who, in my view, should be probably in a special care somewhere, because she can't, I mean, act like, I don't know what you have to do to be put in a straitjacket in an asylum. I really don't know at this point, because Trump and Kanye West are not in one. So, but I would say she's as an individual, I think she's a repulsive human being, especially, as I'm sure everybody knows, with the following, like, she called to apologize, but she refused to do it publicly or in a correct way, if I'm not mistaken. But although I don't think she should apologize, or I'm glad this happened, though. I'm glad that, you know, her real self is out there.
Yeah, and I mean, will that hurt her politically? And
I don't think so, but I'm glad to know what kind of an animal she is.
Yeah, and I mean, as Matt
no
Taibbi,
disrespect to animals, no disrespect to any animal.
Yeah, seriously. And as Matt Taibbi and Katie Halper pointed out, her jokes barely landed with her own audience / staffer. I think she made it twice.
It was a respectful ha ha.
And yeah,
and by the way, did you see the audience? A bunch of goddamn bikers and.
I mean, yeah, I don't even want to say anything bad about them, because they seem to realize there was something wrong with what she was saying. Yeah, but you say you don't know how people like that are not in straitjacket. I mean, I hope part of it has to be an act, because I mean, or that in her day-to-day life she's a bit smarter. If not, she'll get run over by a car within 2 minutes. I mean, based on the level of thinking and reasoning she's shown in these couple of videos. Yeah, and you know, it's so funny, this part. I mean, this is perhaps not surprising, but I wrote she's so full of herself, because she didn't say that X or Y is a strong woman. She said that she's a strong woman. Who says that about themselves? You know, she's like, I'm a strong woman of faith. I mean, you know, you say somebody else is a strong person or this, but no, she compliments herself as she's giving her apology.
Right-wing people have the the shame part of their brain has been turned off long ago. How can you believe the bullshit they do? But I would say what fascinated me, which we might talk about at the end of the podcast, was that the QAnon documentary I told you about, Into the Storm. She was one of the people who is very, very, very briefly featured on that as a politician that sort of came on the wave of like politicians that used QAnon to at least launch their career. And I don't know, I know it's like I'm gonna get into the whole thing, why am I wrong and why I shouldn't feel this way, but I do feel sometimes like, Jesus Christ, I wish we had moved beyond this, like I really felt like sometimes you don't want to admit it, but in your heart, not in your brain, you feel like, oh, we are moved beyond this level of stupidity, and then somebody like this comes along and it's just, oh no, we are still at the same level as we were when we were in caves and drawing.
I think that's kind of the reason. I mean, that's like a perfect like transition to kind of Matt Taibbi, with all his experience and having seen all these people. He's lived longer than us. I mean, I'm sure he's read more about the past than me, and he's been more active. I mean, he was kind of taken aback by this. And he goes on to say that in the video where they're watching the apology, and he goes on to say that, back in the day, they didn't used to do this. And those kind of statements, they always kind of, get my attention with, things that have changed before they weren't like that. And, I immediately thought about, well, did Sarah Palin not say kind of similar stuff? I mean, I don't know if she said something exactly, but I mean, when you listen to Lauren Boebert, it just looks like Sarah Palin's talking. And then you were telling me that there are also a lot of other slightly less obvious, perhaps, historical examples that this is just like the modern manifestation of it, or more obvious. Yeah. So what did you make of that comment by Matt Taibbi? I mean, we do think that his headache might have influenced his thinking there.
I love his episodes with a headache, because he's just like, oh my God.
Why does he often have a headache?
So many things. But I would say, no, this was the first one and I loved it. I think I haven't seen every episode. But I was just thinking, I don't know. They keep saying, oh, civility, the civility has gone. And then I think back and I remember Obama years with the birther movement, basically implying the first half black president is not really black, or he's not American.
Yeah.
Then you had Clinton years with the all Lewinsky scandal and the way family values. Newt Gingrich, somebody who's had like 3 different wives, and I think the second one publicly said he wanted me to swing. That's why I divorced him or some shit. Traditional family values. Not to mention the fact that Republican head of the House, I believe, turned out to be a pedophile. Yeah, who had abused children for like 13 years as a wrestling coach. Even like John Quincy Adams back in like 150 years ago, before California, I think, was added to the US. Like they were calling him in the house. They were calling him a hermaphrodite. By the way, at the time that was considered. I have no problems with anyone who identifies as a hermaphrodite or whatever. But this idea that there was ever civility, or there was ever look at this when John Adams, for example, introduces sedition laws that you're not allowed to insult the president or former president or something like that. There are all these criminal records of the way people, including some politicians, are talking about Washington, Jefferson, and many others. So I don't know. I think that there was never civility.
Yeah.
Not to mention, by the way, if you've ever seen videos of Korean parliament or Polish parliament or any other parliament except the British one, which people are too old to basically, they just go
yeah. And I guess maybe and like it kind of looked like, I mean, maybe a little bit to Matt Taibbi's defense, I mean, I don't know where she was doing that, but it kind of looked like it's a politician doing stand-up comedy, like based on in that little bit of video, and doing like really terrible stand-up comedy with horrible jokes. So maybe
Yeah, she
back in
was
the
trying
day,
to do a bit.
yeah. So maybe back in the day, politicians didn't do stand-up comedy that often or something. I don't know, or maybe they did. I'm just trying to think of aspects of it that were novel, because there was something about it that, you know, even we're still talking about it, although we're not shocked. There was just, like you said, you'd have thought that maybe these particular jokes, at least we'd moved on and, you know, make bad jokes about other people now or something. But
No.
she brought back some of the classics, right? Because it had to do with terrorism and being a Muslim too, which is not the most in topic right now.
Look, I don't even, to be honest, not the stupidity or racism or xenophobicness of the jokes. That's not so much the video that she made in the response to their phone call. And that was just like, Jesus Christ, she's making this video. And I'm sure if you go on her Twitter or whatever page, there are loads of people that are right on, sister. You go, you show them. And Jesus Christ, that was more, because I'm sure these type of idiotic, racist, xenophobic jokes goes on, but like got elected to Congress, and it's probably gonna work in her favor in the end. It's gonna any media attention is good, right?
Exactly. I mean, any press is good press, or like any press is good press. But I mean, that's
press is a good press.
Yeah, I mean, right now she's been all over TV with this. Sure, maybe she repulsed like 20 people from her base, but she probably gained a few hundred. I mean, I'm just throwing random numbers, but I'm talking about the ratio. So I'm guessing as many people who were possibly disgusted. Because this is not the first time too, right? I mean, we saw
she's a regional.
Sorry, I mean, I was almost done with my thoughts. Yeah.
No, go ahead, sir.
No. I was pretty much, I'm just saying, I'm sure this is not the first time that she's made these kind of comments or similar ones. So, I mean, it's not like she became elected by basing herself on a totally different personality, I would assume.
No, you're 100% right. Although I would say she's a congressperson, right? Mm-hmm. She's running in a district, and she might get a more, let's say, maybe national appeal, but I don't know her district, I don't know the makeup, but it all depends on all of that. So she might get damaged locally, but I would think nationally, sadly, I think all of this, including us talking about it, not that thankfully we only have like 1,000 viewers, so thank God, but
yeah. But okay, all right, good stuff. So in the hopes of not making her president, let's move on to the next next topic, which again, Sam, you have to give a little bit of explanation here. So I literally did not know that Jeremy Corbyn actually has a brother.
That's not that surprising, I feel.
So I'm going to try to find his video and put it here.
Yes, surprising part is that his brother is an insane person.
Keep a fort in your trousers, wearing a mask. It's like trying to keep a fort in your trousers. What is it like? It's like trying to keep a fort in your trousers. What is it like? It's like trying to keep a fort in your trousers, wearing a mask. It's like trying to keep a fart in your trousers, wearing a mask. It's like trying to keep a fart in your trousers. What is it like? It's like trying to keep a fart in your trousers. What is it like? It's like trying to keep a fart in your trousers.
So, New World Order, we've never followed any of your mad dictates, and we never will.
Resist, defy, do not comply. Resist, defy, do not comply. Resist, defy, do not comply.
Yeah, exactly. And so pretty much this video, I'm going to try and put it here. It featured on Novara Media, but it was taken down there, but I'm sure, and newspapers and everything's there, so I'll put it. But yeah, he pretty much goes on the metro in London with like 6 or 7 other people, and they say that, they make some...
They don't say that.
They sing.
They sing that. they make a great music video about how masks are like pants for farts, masks for breathing, masks for coronavirus are like pants for farts because
insane. And I mean, the video was so bad and so cringe. So hopefully people have seen it by now. And yeah, I want you to talk a little bit about.
Hopefully they haven't seen it.
I mean, we played it for them to see it. True, a short segment. But before you telling me anything that you know about Piers Corbyn, I'm just interested. There was one really even older than Piers Corbyn, he looks like in this video. There was one grandpa. And like I really felt bad for him because I was thinking, this is someone's grandpa, you know. And he's like, no, okay, true. The COVID, but also the embarrassment, you know, like this is someone's grandpa who's in this video. I mean, I don't know who he is. Maybe he does embarrassing thing on a daily basis, so his family's not shocked. But if that's like the only one, I would just really felt bad for him, his family, his children, his grandchildren.
The other old guy, not Piers Corbyn?
Yeah, the other old guy. I believe he's bald.
Don't feel sorry for Jeremy Corbyn to be put up with this kind of brother?
So what's the story with Piers Corbyn? Was he a politician too, or what do you know about him?
No, well, he's a businessman. He's also a weatherman, which is... But I find there's so many crazy people who are weathermen also. I don't know if you know this, David Lynch. One of the people who I'm not a fan at all, also a weatherman, like, you know, but he's a scientist. He studied astrophysics and shit. So that's the weird part. I remember he was like during when Corbyn became the leader, like then there was this news of Piers Corbyn, his brother and stuff, kind of like, you know, Bernie Sanders had a brother who was a Green member in the UK actually, and everybody was, I was, he has a brother, that must be cool. And then I found out he's a climate change denier. Climate change denier. And apparently recently he's moved into anti-vax, the more recent fun hoax we are having. But Jesus Christ, he's just so much fun though. He's so much fun. And the music video is so much fun. He did leave the Labour Party over Iraq war. So,
he was in the Labour Party?
Member, not as a MP, but yeah, he was a member, like you know, somebody who pays yearly dues and shit.
Yeah.
So, you know, he has some good politics somewhere.
But Jesus, but what's up with these like brother teams coming out of UK? I mean, I'm just thinking of Christopher Hitchens and his brother, who's also like
Peter Hitchens, right.
Who's his polar opposite. In a bit, it makes more sense, that one, but yeah.
That's interesting. It's like the political version of them. Yeah, you're right. But I would say like they're writers. But I would say, the family politics seems to go weird ways. Ed Miliband, David Miliband, and their father, these guys.
I find it funny. Like, I can see it, like, from my personal experience, you can see, like, there's a sibling who's into politics and maybe the other one a bit less or something. That makes sense. But how these guys are like polar opposites and stuff like that, that's kind of funny.
It is. I would say the Corbyn brothers do, I think, represent two archetypes of like rich middle class type sort of kids, that one becomes this sort of flowery, nice guy who's into socialism and all that. And the anti-vaxxers, apparently one of the highest per capita population of anti-vaxxers is in California. So like usually higher education leads to more like some, anti-vaxxing, some beliefs. So I think it's kind of like that. It's sort of two archetypes of higher middle class bourgeoisie.
Yeah. But yeah, this was quite shocking thing for me to see. But okay, and I wish that other grandpa and his family the best. And for the whole world. But okay, let's keep on moving. So maybe I'm saying his name correctly this time. Jussie Smollett. So the actor.
Jussie.
Jussie Smollett. So the actor who had, made up this whole story that he was attacked by a Trump, Trump loyalist or something, and he wasn't attacked by anyone at all, right? If I remember correctly.
MAGA hats. No, he was. The whole attack was a stage.
It was all staged, right? Exactly. He wasn't attacked.
It was a stage, but it did happen. But
it did happen. Okay, but
the details are the best. It's genuinely, it's one of those comedies that if you write it and you show it, you go, no, this is just too stupid. This couldn't have happened. There is a video. First of all,
hold on. So, are you going to talk about what people have known right now over the past year or two, which I want you to do? But you also said there's specific updates, right, as well?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'll get to the fun update, but there was these two guys who were apparently they were like extras or like just crew people on the Empire, the show he was on. They are from Nigeria, so you can guess what color they are. He hires them to act as, well, by the way, they did act as his like drug dealers and couriers before. So he hires them to attack him as a MAGA people, right? And apparently now in the courts and stuff, it's come out that there is even videos of him from a week before practicing with the same noose around his neck, going like, I stand here, you go.
Oh my God,
it's just so stupid. There's videos of, like, there is a receipt of him buying the noose. There's videos of him doing the noose. There's like a video recording of everything. But then the moment they actually do the attack that was a stage, the cameras were malfunctioning. So there's no video of the actual attack that he was trying to say it happened. And apparently he lost this shit with the police and everything after the attack. It was, why there is no cameras? Like this reminds me of those criminals who apparently went into a shop to rob it and they had made their face black with the magic marker. To conceal their identity. This is that level of like crime genius. So like one of the best stories ever. Dave Chappelle does a great bit on it, in my view, one of his best bits. On Monday, former Empire actor Jussie Smollett denied that he staged an anti-gay racist attack on himself, testifying at his trial that there was no hoax. There was no hoax, guys. There was no hoax. No. And that he was the victim of a hate crime in his downtown Chicago name.
So he's still sticking to it.
Yeah, well, and the fact, usually from what I recall, lawyers don't put, we discussed this before, you don't put the defendants on the stands, especially this.
This guy I wouldn't put.
I would go for like he's not reached like mature age brain wise. He's really 9. That would have been my defense. But the two brothers who were hired, they're saying that Smollett, who is gay and black, orchestrated the hoax to get publicity, giving them $100 for supplies. Jesus Christ, man, don't be so cheap. And instructing them to place a noose around his neck and yell homophobic slurs. They also said Smollett gave them 3,500 checks to carry out the mission. So, nice. Yeah. And Smollett claims that he wrote the checks for nutrition and training advice.
What the?
Nutrition.
Man. I mean, you can tell that this story, like, this was so bad and so clumsy that it fell apart within 2 days. And and it's a narrative that the media would have loved to jump on. It's like perfect.
They did. Kamala Harris tweeted about it.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
And why would he do this? I mean, he was that taken in with the whole Trump thing in his head. Like, I mean, what would bring you to do such a thing?
Oh, because it's not that. He's an actor. He's an attention seeker already.
Yeah.
And he's a second-rate actor. So, you want to sort of push. And, I'm just, by the way, I don't even blame him for doing it. If he got away with it and 50 years from now, we read about it in his memoir, good for you. But just do it
Just
properly.
so clumsy.
I'm talking to it. Don't hire black people to do a racist attack on you. It just doesn't work.
Oh, and now that I also remember, it's that like, okay, so there wasn't footage of the attack you're saying, but there was footage of him during that time. A week before. Okay, I thought there was footage of him like during the time when he said that happened to him. He was like out and coming back home and all this. So there was like
there is footage of him before, I think, after attack, and I think there is some footage of him after the attack that he's like la, la, la. I don't remember, but that I don't quote me on that. But there is footage of him training for the attack, but there's no footage of attack. So stupid, the whole thing. Like, I swear to God, Mr. Bean could have pulled off a better crime. If you make this a Mr. Bean episode, like, people would be like, oh, they jumped the shark.
Yeah. No, absolutely ridiculous. But all right. And yeah, I mean, I wonder, what is he gonna be? I mean, it's not like he murdered someone. He should just stop with the lie and everything and take his punishment and and move on. I mean, I don't know what kind of punishment he's facing, but
no, originally he only got 16 hours of whatever service, community service or whatever it's called, which was very low. But now the police department and stuff, I think, no, if you waste police fucking time, you should get a proper.
Yeah, but I'm saying he's not going to go away for life.
Criminal.
Yeah.
No, but you should get a massive fine.
Yeah, no, for sure. Hopefully, yeah, he should have some money, I'm guessing, to pay for a fine.
By the way, like, I'm not big on these things, but you would think, what do you think, like, this type of story? What's the larger contribution this type of story does to the narrative? That bunch of white people now, not bunch of white people, I apologize, bunch of white racists now can go around saying that, oh, this is just like the Jussie Smollett thing. Oh, this is just like the Jussie Smollett.
Yeah, I mean, even without that, they could find some excuse to say this.
They do it anyway. So I don't want to overblown, oh, this is blah, blah, blah. But the only effect it has is this, if any.
No, I agree with you there. Okay, let's move on to the next video. So Steven Pinker was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he has a new book out. So you know a little bit more about him. So I got a quick thing about him. So Steven Pinker is a Canadian-American cognitive psychologist and a popular science author and popular public intellectual, and he's an advocate of evolutionary psychology and the computational theory of mind. I'm not too sure what that is referring to, but pretty much the video that I watched, which is 15 minutes, and Sam shared it with me on the Joe Rogan podcast. He was there to promote his new book, which is about rationality. So Sam, what can you tell us a little bit more about Steven Pinker? I know that you know him more from before, and about this video.
Well, sure. Well, we discussed this before. He's one of the famous scientists associated with Epstein, and then the Austin University, whatever, which is he disassociated himself with that, which is going great. But I've never been a fan of him when he talks about history and politics. He wrote this book about how everything is like getting better if you look at statistics and blah, 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 which in my view is just, I'm sorry. Noam Chomsky attacks him on that book, but then again, Noam Chomsky himself, I think, is completely, sadly, is mistaken when he says, no, history used to be better when we were gathered hunters. Anyways, so yeah, but he's a cognitive science. I did a little bit of linguistics, and he does cognitive science, and in a way he kind of connects it to linguistics, which Noam Chomsky does. And I found his work on that amazing. He does this famous article called Language Maven, which talks about these asshole grammarians who have dominated English language teaching specifically, and English literature. These idiots who believe in a fixed idea of English grammar. for example, you shouldn't split your indefinites. Indefinites. Sorry, my pronunciation there is letting me down. But so I love his. I must say, there's a fantastic lecture by him on cognitive linguistics and how it works with the brain. He's a really interesting scientist. But I do feel whenever he comes to the politics and larger social issues, because he's so, I feel like, I don't know, I've got the feeling from this video as well that he's a bit of an empiricist. And and his idea of rationality, I need to look at his book, and I feel like his idea of rationality is very, very primitive, really, because since like for many years we've had the idea of like bounded rationality, and the idea that rationality is very much defined by the social environment of each individual or each grouping and all that. So I mean, I feel like he's correct about the diagnosis of problems, but sadly he falls back into this usual liberal normative trap of like there is this actual like rationality that we should strive for, that is objective or so. I don't know, what was your feeling about what he
Same.
talked about?
So I mean, I haven't read his book, and the video was 15 minutes long, but I feel like after the first 2 minutes, they kind of had moved on from this subject. And Joe Rogan was really like funny in this one. He was like, he came off as like almost a centrist person. I got the feeling here and there. So that was interesting. But yeah, in the beginning, two things with rationality kind of got my attention. One is, I mean, I don't know what are the different definitions of rationality, but it kind of seemed like when he was talking about rationality, he was talking about evidence. So he was like, now there's so many things that before we used to do on gut feeling, but now we use this and that information and to make a rational decision, which I guess now that I said it, it kind of made me seem like it's linked, although I found it to be a bit different. And he kept on talking about how we use evidence. And even if we use evidence, are we necessarily making a rational decision? And rational decisions, I don't know, based on what I do, is not only based on evidence. I found that to be a bit weird. And then the second thing I think he was saying is that we're losing our rationality. And back in the day, we were more rational, or now we're becoming more rational. I'm not too sure. It's only based on like 2 minutes. I don't know if you can complete kind of the jibber jabber I just said.
No, you're right. He's talking, I think in a very layman terms, he's saying that we should scientific method, like as in evidence-based. And again, this is a very positivist empiricist view that has become during the last 20-30 years, especially the idea that science is like that. No, some natural scientists within our planet, within the Newtonian laws of physics, are like that. Must be positivist and empiricist, but social sciences and all that, that's the limitations of his argument.
Agree with
the
you
scientific method, empiricism, positivism cannot be applied there. But he does say, there is more rationality as he describes it, for example, in decision makings regarding economics. Actually, I don't know if he mentions economics specifically, but let's say, for example, we take in more evidence when we are actually in the process of decision making. But I would argue that doesn't make the process of decision making or the result of the decision making any more rational. It's just a more evidence-based or a process-based system. And because there is no rationality, because rationality is a subjective thing, and it's just idiotic to just have this idea of an objective rationality. I mean, the guy, Simon, I forget the guy who won the Nobel Economic Prize, which again, I'm not a big fan of even the idea of a Nobel Economic Prize, but he came up with bounded rationality. And it's the idea that, yes, there is some level of rationality that all humans do through the fact that we are all same species, and we all relatively share certain environment, for example, night and day. There is a level of consistency, but then again, rationality of each individual is defined by their environment and their reaction to that environment. So yeah, I think he's putting forward the scientific method, but he is saying that in some areas we are moving forward, in some areas we are moving backward, I guess.
Yeah, I think you put it very well based on what I understood what he said in that video, and I totally agree with your understanding of rationality here and mine, although it might have
sorry
sounded...
if I misrepresented.
No, mine might have sounded a bit less developed, but that's kind of what I was saying. But yeah, if anybody else who's watching, whether you've read his book or know more or listened to the whole Joe Rogan podcast, maybe they came back on this topic multiple times and talked about it.
But I do want to say, Steven Pinker, in my view, is a serious, a lot of times he's because of his association.
Yeah, hold on. So you put him in the serious category, whether good or bad, or kind of clown.
Yeah.
You see him more as serious, not necessarily a clown.
He has there is debates with him and Chomsky, man. He's a real cognitive scientist. I don't know. I just don't think it's fair sometimes that he's put into the same category as Alan Dershowitz or because these are all idiots that had some connection. By the way, Stephen Hawking's also had I think had a meeting with Epstein, if I'm not mistaken. So you can be I don't know what. You can be in your personal life a monster, first of all, or maybe not. Maybe you're just used for a prop by another monster. I don't know the details, but whatever, you can still be a serious, kind of like Jeff Bezos. Even though he's a serious, I think, monster, I do consider him a serious monster, unlike Elon Musk.
Yeah, exactly. He's more towards the clown and maybe less. But yeah, I mean, I guess a straight up clown would be, I don't know, a little bit that I saw Piers Corbyn, he would kind of fall
Piers
in the
Corbyn
clown category.
I would say even a proper, let's say, clown that is...
What's a clown? I feel like there's a clown that's just
respectable.
escaping.
David Frum, respectable clown. Clowns, they're people who support the Iraq War or who's that guy? I think he passed away recently. There was this old guy who was a lawyer. He was partially this. I've tried to find the Fox News used to bring him on. He had a major leather skin condition type, he was so under the sun. The people who pretend they're serious,
Dave Rubin. I mean, Dave Rubin. He's a
Dave Rubin is
straight up clown.
Below I think he's more like a bottom-feeding cockroach.
Yeah, okay, so that's another category. So you have clown, then you're cockroach. But yeah, Fareed Zakaria, I mean, everyone on CNN is a clown.
Fareed Zakaria is a clown because he thinks he's serious. He's not. He's not knowledgeable. He's not really serious, but he's there. He's secular talk of CNN. Anyway.
All right, Sam, let's move on to the last video in our Progressive World Online segment. And this one was posted on the Bad Fate podcast. Title of the video is Beatles Overrated. And in the conversation, there was, of course, Brianna. And there was also Trevor Beaulieu. I believe people who've watched Bad Fate must have seen him from before. So Trevor Beaulieu, I just wanted to look up quickly who he is. He's a lawyer based in Brooklyn, but he's also known for his journalism. And also he has a podcast called Champagne Sharks. I've never watched, but go ahead.
Yeah, he also, if you recall, he had that interview. He was part of that interview with Dr. Krashner.
Okay, so he was there.
Yeah, we and it was quite. They referenced that apparently the comment section, like us, didn't like Dr. Krashner very much, and he referenced that I apologize to Dr. and everybody took his side anyway.
Yeah, so he was there, and the other person was, of course, the main person of this podcast. I would really say, I feel like this podcast was made for him to share his thoughts, which is Leslie Lee. And I mean, I only know Leslie
from a struggle session.
Okay, that's where it's from. Yeah, I just know him through Bad Fate, really. Oh no, sorry, from Katie Halper. He's always on Katie Halper.
Struggle sessions.
Yeah. So this is pretty much, I'm going to try to give an introductory overview based on how I recall how the events have happened. You okay there?
Yeah.
We will not stop the show because of this, okay?
because of my
Yeah.
imminent death.
If you die, you die.
Okay, bad.
We'll keep this going.
It's not even live. But,
Yeah. But right, no, that was good. If it continues, I'll maybe have to cut something. But okay, as I was saying, apparently there's a new documentary out on the Beatles on Disney Plus, and the documentary, based on what Leslie was saying, it kind of takes the approach of behind the scenes, shows the behind the scenes process of them recording one of their last album or something along those lines. And Leslie apparently tweeted, which he had to delete by now because of the response. I think he tweeted, white people love, oh boy, do white people love Beatles. Anyway, something white people and love Beatles. And this led to, of course.
Wow, like at a,
go ahead.
I think in a poll as well, Beatles were voted again like the most popular or the best band or something along those lines.
Yeah, so
like he was referring to documentary. And
so yeah, exactly. So he put out this tweet and he got a whole reaction. So then they decided to kind of make a video discussing that. And I do agree with a lot of the stuff that they were possibly saying about Beatles, but at the same time, I mean, like, okay, you can say that about any band. And pretty much Leslie's argument was that Beatles are extremely overrated, and people who don't know anything about music, they just say it's the best band ever, but it's all marketing and they're really not. And yeah, and white people are so sensitive when you talk about Beatles and they defend it so much. But yeah, and the Beatles suck. And if you ask, not they suck, but if you ask proper musicians and all that, they will tell you that the Beatles music is very simple and not complex. And that kind of made me think, like, yeah, of course, I don't think that's like too much of a radical statement for anyone really. Whenever someone talks about the best movies ever or the best music ever, it's often like within the most commercial space and what the most amount of people have heard. And a lot of people might not necessarily be in music, they just heard it a lot, so they think the Beatles are the best. And I mean, they point out to all the marketing that is extra with the Beatles. You know, they always reinvent them, they always put their albums out, but they try that out with every, you know, kind of band and movie. So I don't find that to be, maybe it worked to a very well extent with the Beatles, but I don't find that to be unique. So I didn't quite understand what this whole thing, as if it was like a groundbreaking thing that they're telling us this. And then after that, this is a kind of good interpretation. And then after that, there was a lot of things being said, you know, white people this, white people that I feel like if you say those things and replace white with black and brown, maybe it shouldn't be the case, but people would be reacting, because Leslie was pretty much, you know, kept on talking about how white people don't understand it, like anything about music and all this, based on a reaction he got on his Twitter feed. I mean, I found it to be a bit too much to go from this all the way to that.
Or let's say a reaction he may have gotten throughout his life from his interpersonal relationships. Yeah. That doesn't make it so. And yeah.
Can I just say one last thing? Just one last thing. Sorry, and I was done. My bad. It's just that he doesn't kind of acknowledge the fact too much that he threw in that word white in that tweet, which also might have got a lot of people react because of that. He didn't simply write, oh boy, do people love the Beatles. I mean, and that he didn't, you know, he didn't really acknowledge that too much, I feel like. Of course, we knew that's what the tweet was, but they didn't talk about it enough, I thought.
Yes, and I feel like, again, like I felt exactly like you until it got towards the end of the interview, and I felt a bit like, oh, maybe they don't mean what they. Again, it's like what Thomas Chatterton, I think, said, and that's why I hate goddamn fucking talking about race, because it's such an imprecise word. Because Leslie Lee does talk about the fact that actually the white people in the UK, or British people basically, they don't have the same sort of, let's say, obsessive relationship as the people from US that he has seen or from his experiences. And then you have the what's his name, the other guy, I forget.
Trevor Beaulieu. Trevor.
Trevor Beaulieu, for example, he argues, I don't know if it's true, that he found in his experience that British people have a better understanding of the blues music. So when they talk about white people, specifically they are talking about white Americans, it seems. But in the beginning, yeah, look, as I mean, I don't know if I should, like, I think because we go back to this criticism pretty much every week. So I think at some point it's our fault in a way, because it feels like they seem to be just talking about America when they say white people. But as somebody who likes to, I wish they talked more precisely, like maybe, but then again, I don't even think white Americans are that. Like in my experience, and I haven't had a lot of experience, but I've known a couple, about 10, 15 white Americans. They didn't come across like the way they.
I mean, they were only talking about the most, like, sure, if you just put everybody under one blanket umbrella and take like the most dominant like level of like ideology and ideas that transcends the population, like, sure. Yeah, but exactly, there was no breakdown. And in this video, they did keep on talking about England and the best music in the world. So this one, they were a bit more internationalist than their other videos, which make this criticism more fair this time. But I also want to come back to that, about the fact that,
I think there was a huge amount of smugness, by the way, going on about the fact that like there was one point, again, Leslie Lee, the struggle sessions, I love his shows, I usually love his takes, but there was one point that he said, like he says, oh, I'm sorry, my family cared about black music and black law and black this. And you're like, okay, well, each family cares about a certain type of music, one of my closest friends, their family is super into traditional music, traditional as in like, very traditional, like they know their notes, blah blah blah. I've never seen them saying, oh, sorry, we are into traditional music with tones and we know the notes. Do you know the difference, major, minor? What is this?
100%, 100%. I mean, I felt
smugness.
There was so much of that. 100%. Like, it kind of felt like a topic where somebody finally who knows more about something had a chance to lecture everybody else about it. I mean, that's kind of the feeling I got throughout the video. Like everything, like nobody else understands music. They don't know anything about music, but I'm understanding and I'm telling you. And all of this, basing it on his reaction that he got on Twitter, a lot of it, at least, and on this video.
Full disclosure, I'm not at all, I mean, they have good songs, but in my subjective view, but I'm not a fan of Beatles. I remember a white person, by the way, a super white person, one of my closest friends, was one of the first people who said, I was like, oh, Beatles, they're great, right? He was like, no, they're shit. They are like the Woody Allen, he said, they're like Woody Allen of music, because if you make that much music, some of them are bound to be good.
Yeah.
And everybody, since I was a child, knew that Ringo is apparently shit. They just needed somebody to do the thing. So they brought in Ringo last minute. Like that was the joke about Ringo always. Like nobody was saying, I remember this joke like in a lot of shows. And so that Ringo was like brought in last minute because I think they lost their drummer or something. Like he didn't know how to play anything and all that. And there was so much smugness. And then
only by Leslie, though, to be fair, because I mean, Brianna, I found some part she was doing like laughing awkwardly, if you ask me, at times when he was going, and she's just laughing. And Trevor also didn't say anything. He was pretty good in this video. He didn't.
Oh, I definitely agree pretty much with, I think, everything Trevor said, really. Like, there was a lot of like, and by the way, again, like, I'm somebody who hates a lot of David Lynch, I said, a lot of people who artistically are, or mainstream, James Cameron, I think is one of the worst directors ever. But, I don't like, it's a subjective thing at the end of the line, you know.
Yeah.
Not
No,
like,
no.
you know, who cares? It's like, yeah, that's one thing. And yeah, I wanted to talk about I don't know if you had anything to add to this part.
Yeah, I mean,
the smugness.
Yeah, I mean, I want to also, yeah, the smugness, perhaps not, but it was just apparent from the get-go, you know, at times he was lecturing you about music and not knowing and all this. And then, you know, one thing, like, you know, I want to maybe explain to him, maybe he doesn't get it. He's like, you know, why do people defend the Beatles in such a way? You know, like, it just sometimes when people reach such a level of popularity and like beyond like normal level of popularity, then some people who aren't even into music or whatever at all, they just hear Beatles and then they've developed this knee-jerk reaction where they defend the person like nothing. Like, you know, in MMA, they always complain about this. There's this fighter who's really famous, Conor McGregor, and he's reached such a status that when people talk about him in the comment section and defend him, they sound much dumber than people when they're talking about different people. Because I think they've reached such a level that some people are such superficial fans that, you know, they just have this kind of reactions. Anything good or bad, they just jump on you. So I don't know if this is something like Leslie is quite aware, but it happens with in all kinds of areas of life when, you know, Beatles they are extremely famous, and 100% his point about marketing has a lot to do with it. I mean, couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to say you made a great point there. I think it's not just to do with arts even. Anything that that reaches that level of popularity and public acceptance is a sort of a Rorschach, as in it's attracting people for a variety of different reasons. For example, I love my favorite director, Christopher Nolan, right? But I hate most of his fans. Like his fans were the ones that attack on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't remember. I think it was the third Batman movie or something. They attacked critics who I disagree with the critic. I think all his movies are great. Whatever. Okay. He hasn't done one bad thing, but I don't need to go and shout at somebody. But online, when you have it's kind of like, by the way, major religions. Why do you have some sects that are completely psychopathic and, for example, are fanatical, and then you have some sects that are basically a bunch of hippies in every religion? Why? Because it's just reached the level of popularity that it's become a Rorschach for everybody to put their own thing into it. And although I do agree that like a lot of people do get brainwashed by their parents, as I think Leslie Lee says that, you know, their parents and grandparents play the music, and because they love their parents and grandparents, that music becomes more respectable.
Yeah, but I really didn't understand that kind of attack on he kept on saying like the fact that it's your grandparents' music, that should be like the first clue that it's not good music. I didn't really quite get that. Did you remember
I do
hearing
get
that from
a
him?
bit. Yes, I do remember. I mean, okay, maybe in the music, I'm by the way, I am musically as
same
talented here. as a rock. Come on,
or
man.
interested even. No. I mean, you for some reason think I know how to play music because I had my dad's guitar in my room, but that's pretty much the extent of it.
But I remember, like, you knew the bands and shit. Like,
I mean, I was a bit into music.
Everything
it's kind of like the movie thing, right? I never want to say I'm into movies because even the average person is more into movies than me. So yeah, of course I've heard of music before, but I know that if you point out 5 people, 4 out of 5 of them will listen more to music than me. That's kind of my point.
Oh, I see. I thought you're kind of into music like I'm into movies, as a like quite enthusiastic follower. But anyways, so what were we talking about?
Let me get the conversation going again with this comment that I took from from her page, and I think, like, you know.
Oh, sorry. Wait. Just about the old. Like, like, for example, if anybody, again, I don't know anything about anything really, but I've seen a lot of movies, And my impression was, for example, Citizen Kane. For years, I was told it's like, yo, you have to watch this movie. And I understand now that at its own time, it was a groundbreaking movie. But when you watch it now, it's the most boring and it's just shit, frankly. And a lot of like Star Wars, I find to be it's just it's awful. But a lot of old movies, I do think, are venerated for no reason other than the fact that at their own time they were groundbreaking, which is good, fair enough. But yeah, that's not like you do also have movies that are timeless. So
yeah, and no, I understand, like sometimes you romanticize stuff from the past also. I mean, you're making a slightly different argument, but I think this goes with that. You know, you romanticize stuff from the past, but it doesn't mean that so all music made back then is bad. No, I mean, some are good and some are bad. So I didn't quite get that.
Yeah, that's definitely. Yeah.
But let me read this comment also to bring back. This is like, you know, they didn't really say this, but I think this is the overall sentiment that you get. So this person commented, so the three persons here think all Black artists or musicians are the greatest and all white or otherwise are trash. And, you know, I mean, maybe a bit harsh, but you do kind of get that sentiment from watching the video.
I feel that's really harsh.
You think that's
like
too harsh?
They talk about Iggy a lot and how he contributed. I think what sadly they talk too much about is this. They focus a lot on this, in my view, idea of cultural appropriation, and the idea that the idea, for example, you know, all these new things were made by Black people and then they copied them. They got copied by white people. And I mean, I didn't
even get that part because I don't know the history of music that well. But yeah, I remember
I didn't get
hearing
it
as well.
either.
But yeah, no, I know I heard it.
I didn't know some of the people they were talking. I knew Iggy Pop and I knew the what was the Jungle Fever band? I forget. Anyway, but you know, I knew the names, but I didn't know any of the details or anything. But I mean, there is this constant thing on the left that talks about cultural appropriation of this music got stolen by that guy, these stories got stolen by these guys. I'm sorry, but the history of art, the history of humanity is cultural appropriation. Right, you know, all religions are pretty much, you know, culturally appropriate, and you know, for example, they keep talking about jazz and, you know, blues and this is culturally appropriate, that made safe for white people and all that. And by the way, one of the, I don't know if you've noticed, but in jazz and blues and all these music associated with, for example, Black Americans, what is the instrument they use?
The saxophone. Is that what it's called?
The saxophone. I think so, yeah, the saxophone. And I don't know if anybody is aware of this, but the saxophone, I don't know, do you think it was invented by a Black man in Nigeria? No, you don't know? No, it was developed in 1840 by Adolf Sax, a Belgian instrument maker. So now all the jazz music, all the great jazz music of all the Black artists that has used saxophone in them. I don't know, does Nina Simone use any saxophone in any of her work? It's cultural appropriation of a device made by a white man in Belgium. What is this, like constantly trying to dissect where did this came from, all art is inspired by all other arts, and it's the whole point of art is to, you know, synchronize and that's not the whole point of art, but it is what happens in practice. So I just don't like this. Then they go back to the whole, but at the end they go
don't
to the
touch the end, because the end will come back to what they mentioned at the end, and I want to revisit the comment towards the end.
No, I just wanted to mention that the fact that, you know, white people it's weird to me. I don't know when they talk about white people who they are talking about. Really, are they just talking about some assholes on Twitter, or are they talking about the whole? I don't know.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, you know, the way you were talking, the point that you just made, I agree with it a lot. And I was going to come with it towards another way, is that at certain times they seemed very self-centered because they kept on talking about, okay, so there's music, the music played by, I guess, white people in the Americas and in the UK. And the only other example that they were thinking of was like, African American music, and like, bands from African American band could have been so much better, but they would have been not recognized. And then I was thinking, well, at least they're in the English speaking world and they speak like English, so their music gets heard. But when you talk about, like, for instance, in the Oscars, what do they have? They have like a special segment for foreign movies, right? So like what in other countries around the world, they don't have amazing musicians and all this. But yeah, you just don't get heard. So you don't hear, people don't talk about that they are the world's best and stuff. So I mean, in a way, it seemed like they were very self-centered in their conversation and not thinking about globally, this works. This is the case globally, right? You don't hear about musicians from X, Y, and Z or that country who could be a million times more talented, or movies that could be a million times better than any movie that comes out from the Oscars. And a lot of this have to do that, yeah, English is the dominating language of the world. The US is the most powerful country. Before that, there was England. So I believe all of this has to do, helped how English music is so popular and successful, especially English music from the UK.
No, yeah, I mean, definitely agree with you. I would add also that, like, the Oscar one is even more stupid. I mean, the Oscar is because Parasite won the Best Picture. And you're like, oh, so what is the criteria here?
Oh, true. So in that case, he won the best one. It didn't win foreign movie, it just won overall best movie.
Yeah.
So that kind of countered my example, but that's like rare.
No. Like the Academy Award is the most idiotic one. It's just any prize giving ceremony for arts.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus Christ. Anyway, but I would say, like, let's say even like there are other English language speaking countries, movies of which, arts of which is not viewed because, not just because they're not, like, they may be white, but they're not, because they're not within the sphere of America, let's say Canada, or I don't know. I mean, to be fair, Beatles were in the UK. But yeah, I mean, it's complaining about, I mean, for example, I've seen a lot of Iranian movies that are much better than Oscar winner American movies. But of course, they're not going to get the same attention. Why? Because they're not in the, nobody from that sphere sees them, right? So Parasite, by happenstance, got to get that attention, and it won. Like, it's life. And again, if you care so much about your art being given the prize, you shouldn't.
And so I just want to go back to the end of the conversation and that comment as well. But and one other thing that's very simple and basic. I mean, maybe I mentioned this, but yeah, I mean, music is extremely subjective, and I think I mentioned this, and the quote unquote best band isn't the band that plays the hardest kind of music, like musically and stuff, because they mentioned like the Beatles music
advanced
is very like easy to play, and that's why they teach it in schools and stuff. Like, yep, so 100%. The masses, that's what they're drawn to. I mean, I could not tell if you put Beatles playing music or the most technically person. I mean, I wouldn't tell which one's more technical. I might have a preference in the type of music, but I don't think music is ever really judged based on how hard it is. That's not really a criteria often.
No, in art, this is some people, I think, especially, for example, again, cinema, something I know a little bit more about. Like, some people love these artsy movies, or these weird. I've never been into movies for like fantastical. I like them if it's possible, but I've always hated a lot of Trans Smollett, for example, movies, because they're artsy in my view, as in, like, what the fuck is this? Like, give me some story, give me something to root for, give me some, kinetic movement or whatever. So yeah, I don't think difficulty of the shot, difficulty of, for example, I have a friend who does violin. It's very some of the most difficult things to play are the most boring.
Yeah, 100%.
To me,
I assume.
By the way, to me, again, it's subjective to me, and some people like me. I don't think one is better than the other. It's not it's art. It's taste. It's like arguing over. And yeah, the way they're again, if they weren't so dismissive about it, if they were just saying,
if he wasn't so dismissive, really. Because I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Brianna was much
and by
less.
the way, people remember the pop music from past eras. Nobody remembers the most complex, piece of art from the most innovative, the one that the first used the ding sound in. I don't know. I get annoyed when people care too much about art. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and then people in the comment section, like I said, weren't too nice. But I just want to go back to this comment. So it says, so the three persons here think all black artists or musicians are the greatest and all white otherwise are trash. Then it says the reaction to Leslie's comment on Jay-Z was so telling. This was one of the worst episodes. So I'm not too sure why saying the reaction to Leslie's comment on Jay-Z was so telling, because towards the end, they started shifting a bit when like Brianna started saying, okay, I mean, you say that like, white people come to Beatles' defense like crazy, but don't like black people, African Americans do the same thing for, I think she gave the example of Prince, or, I'm sure you can think of other people, and then Jay-Z, and then Leslie said, no, Jay-Z, I always didn't like him. And then he just reminded, I'm sure when he was in school, he was the guy who would always come like, no, what are you listening to? That's on the radio. Do you know of this undercover band, like shoving undercover bands down your throat?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
underground, not undercover. Underground bands down your throat. You're like, no, I listen to Red Hot Chili Peppers. And
cheers. Yeah,
every now and then.
I'm happy with my... Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But yeah. God damn me. Anyway, but I would say it was so telling because first of all, he was like Jay-Z's like, pre-Beyonce and post-Beyonce, which is kind of like basically like, he's pre and post selling out. And because so he doesn't like, basically it came out that he doesn't like famous and mainstream artists, which is fine. A lot of people know. But then they talked about that, black. No, he said no, black. As a kid, even when I was a kid, I was making fun of Prince and stuff, and that shows that he was that type of guy that you were saying, the type that in a school would come up to, like what movie you're watching? Oh, I watch Lord of the Rings. Oh, you mainstream. Have you seen the original cartoon from? Oh, Jesus.
100%.
Yeah,
I mean, if he's doing this at this age.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out some examples for this. First of all, globally, it is completely growing up in 90s. It was completely opposite. If you didn't like hip hop and rap and black musicians, you were a goddamn pariah. And I was one of those people.
For many reasons, including that.
I mean, yes, to be fair, my prior status was not just that. But that was one of the major, like if you didn't like Tupac, which I still to this day do not like Tupac's music, people thought you were mental. And I just don't like it. I don't even know what he's singing about. I don't know the lyrics. I just don't like this music. Or Ice Cube, Ice-T, what was it? Which one was it?
I think they're both. Ice Cube is definitely an artist, yeah. He does the movies, right? He's Ice Cube, I think. Yeah. They did rap before. Yeah, he was.
I never liked that. And if you didn't like black music, and if you didn't like the black stereotypical, by the way, I'm sure most black people were either blasé about the whole thing, or but you didn't wear your jeans low or some shit. You were an outcast, which I didn't. Again. Another reason to be a pariah. But so this idea that there is this always necessarily supremacy of white culture is a joke. And I like to point out again, in 90s, OJ, black guy, got away with the crime. Again, why? Celebrity. R. Kelly, there was a tape of R. Kelly peeing on an underage person, like videotape, like cassette got. And I think he only recently finally got convicted.
Yeah.
If you're rich and famous, doesn't matter if you got that level of marketing that Beatles got for one reason or other. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, whatever. Like,
I'm not. If I were to push back, I would to push back that dominant white, dominant white parts of the culture might get more of that. But you're right. If you reach that status and even you're Black, you could, perhaps transcend like other problems in society.
But so it's about the rich and famous part, not about Black or white part.
Beatles
or
sure, maybe there is some in there and stuff. But I was thinking of like other. I was surprised they didn't mention Jimi Hendrix. I think they did mention him a little bit, but I don't know if that comes from my dad. Yeah, he passed away, but my dad used to say, Jimi Hendrix is the best guitarist, best guitarist, and he's African American, I believe. I hope I'm not. I mean, I know so little on music, I might be confused.
Your father?
No, that Jimi Hendrix. I'm saying Jimi Hendrix was known as being like one of the best musicians, and like he was Black, so I mean, they can also be widely known as being a really good musician.
I try to teach you. No, you're right. They talk about guitarists, Eric Clapton.
Yeah, they say like Clapton is crap or something. Yeah. and people in the comment section but again, Brie wasn't, Brianna wasn't that dismissive, and Trevor wasn't that dismissive, and they have zero music background.
Trevor was dismissive of Eric Clapton, I think.
Okay, he was, okay.
I think, I'm not sure, but
yeah. And again, I 100% believe that the Beatles were probably not like, the most, if someone asked like, okay, come up with the craziest guitar solo, I don't think someone from the Beatles would have won.
No, I do think they were probably Backstreet Boys of their days. I do.
That makes total sense. I mean, that's what he was saying. That makes 1,000,000% sense.
Yeah, but that's not like, okay, whatever. No.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so just don't get into an argument about, with Leslie. And again, he didn't mention that he did mention that this tweet started with white people, but he didn't mention enough how that could have also pissed off some people, whether rightly or wrongly, but
Yeah, that's the thing though. That's because
that's kind of the elephant in the room a little bit, if you ask me.
Because I think if you're a hardcore fan of Beatles and you are white, it kind of implies you are their hardcore fan because you're white.
Yeah.
Not because you like their music, not because you understand music, not because of any personal thing. It's just because you're white. So it's a very, I don't know, just why bring it into the conversation? Just say Beatles are unfairly popular and they're shit.
Yeah. Well, okay. I think we had too much fun with a segment that, we would have claimed there's not much use to it, but
I like to add that I do hope they do more. I do hope she and others do more videos like this. I did really enjoy it, and I do love serious discussions about pop culture because it's serious and it's fun and everybody kind of gets it. So I mean, I hope my tone was not very negative or anything.
We'll see. People in the comment section will let us know if that's the case. All right, Sam, we had quite a bit of fun there. So let's move on to progressive geopolitics and keep on having fun, because the first article that I have is from the Washington Post that is kind of a bit ridiculous also. So the headline reads, rife cocaine use reported in UK Parliament, just as Boris Johnson announces crackdown on drug crime. So apparently Boris Johnson recently dressed up in a police uniform and everything. You'll see some photos here. And, talking about how to combat drug trafficking in the country. So here's the story. The Speaker of the House of Commons has said he's calling in police to investigate reports that drug use is rife in the British Parliament, as Prime Minister Boris Johnson dressed up as a police officer to promote his tough new anti-drug strategy for the country. A report in Britain's Sunday Times said a dozen sites inside the Palace of Westminster tested positive for traces of cocaine. Area of his interest included the bathrooms near Johnson's office and those of Home Secretary Priti Patel, who is in charge of domestic security. Drug residue, the newspaper reported, was also found close to rooms used by the opposition Labour Party, as well as a seated dining room in the House of Lords, and the exclusive, sometimes raucous Thames side pub called the Stranger's Bar. The paper reported that cannabis was also being used openly within the vicinity. Of 12 bathrooms tested for drugs with detection wipes, cocaine was reportedly found in 11 of the locations, including places that can be best accessed only by those with a designated parliamentary pass, including lawmakers and staffers alongside clerks, librarians, and etc. So yeah, it seems like, perhaps not surprisingly, but a few members of the parliament probably have a little drug habit that cannot wait for, the party that night or for the weekend that they have to be attended to much more quickly during work. Which, I mean, people talk about the banking sector and, Wall Street and all this, where drugs is also supposed to be cocaine.
Road.
Yeah, cocaine especially, right? Is supposed to be
Media.
very common. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like pretty much every profession, lawyers, doctors, high media personalities, bankers, politicians I've always heard pretty much about all of them in all nations that,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, I'm for legalization of all drugs. So
oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I guess,
I don't
someone
care,
would
like
say,
good for them.
Yeah. And for you, yeah, I guess you're saying, but I guess others would point out the quote unquote hypocrisy of Boris Johnson and his party and all this. But yeah, of course.
But I mean, it's a hypocrisy in a way. It's a hypocrisy more for people who, openly also, like politicians are largely like, they are
Straight
the
up.
operators, they're representing other people. They're like lawyers. You don't accuse a lawyer who's defending a killer of hypocrisy. I mean, it's,
yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah. And
I mean, unless he is the killer, I don't know. I mean, they are hypocrites, don't get me wrong, because a lot of them go on TV and say it's a moral failure, but at the same time they're paid to do that. So
yeah, I guess, I mean, maybe you can still call them
I mean, is Al Pacino a hypocrite for doing the Nespresso ads?
Oh, you mean not Al Pacino, you mean George Clooney?
No, I think Al Pacino recently did something for some coffee. Al Pacino did some, or Clooney, whatever. RDC, I don't know. Can you say, is that a hypocrisy thing, or
why would you say that? Because it's like a giant corporation and he's kind of like against those things. Like, why are you saying that example?
Because like politicians are like actors. Like, it's not like,
oh, okay,
that's what I mean.
I see
like,
what you mean. Yeah, okay.
Like they're paid to act a certain way. It's not like their job is to act like, Boris Johnson is literally dressing up as police officers. It's literally a costume play.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my god, that's a good point.
It's literally like Boris Johnson is somebody who's had like about 15 children out of wedlock and is still counting, nobody knows, and he's like, oh, I'm for family conservative values. Like, this is all a joke.
No, 100%. Couldn't disagree with you there. Just one point this reminded me of. Have you seen this professor? Because you said that like all politicians and high up people in all kinds of industry, they do drugs. And that, have you ever seen that professor who goes around? He was even on the show with Crystal Ball and Kyle Kalinske, and he's like all for the legalization of drugs, and he himself, I believe, microdoses heroin, if I'm not mistaken, every night to relax. Do you know who I'm talking about? He's African American, long dreads. He's like, I think he's a professor at like one of the big Ivy School universities. But yeah, just reminded me of that.
Very long dreads.
Yeah,
I think he. Yeah, I think
I mean, he straight up says that he does heroin at nighttime, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought he did heroin or something.
No, I believe still now to relax and stuff. I think
I remember there was
in the evening he gets home and he microdoses, I believe, on heroin. I might be mistaken, but I've heard him speak a few times. So actually, I think that's what he said.
There was a famous actress who was credited with the directing of a movie. Like, she wasn't credited with directing a movie, but everybody said she actually did. And she was like one of these people who promoted even heroin use and that type of thing.
Well, he does too. I mean, he writes books and all this on it, and it's.
I don't think I've seen too many. I don't know about heroin specific, but I think everything should be legal, because I think criminalizing anything that hurts you is just, it's hard. It's idiotic. It's backfires.
And it's not effective either. Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually because you want to money launder. That seems to be the real reason behind it. But you don't want to pay taxes, so you make it illegal. But yeah, but I don't know. Heroin seems like, yeah, I don't know. I've seen people's life destroyed by that. In terms of, I don't know if I would promote it.
100%. Maybe I'm totally mistaken, but I'm 99% sure I'm not talking crap. And because
I'm sure
because
if a doctor prescribes it,
it's
fine.
I mean, I'm sure he goes down that road, but yeah, in general.
Oh, I think I've asked you this. You haven't seen the Another Round, the Scandinavian movie?
No.
That's kind of got a similar. I mean, it's about alcohol, but yeah, check it out. Anybody who knows.
Very good stuff. All right, let's keep this party going, Sam. What would you have for us today?
So yeah, do you recall last week you asked me about Afghanistan a little bit?
Yeah. So it's still there. It's still in Asia.
Well, West Asia. There was there is a couple of interesting development there. There was the decision by UN to not release some of the funds to Afghanistan, need Taliban. So that took place. You also had some clashes between Afghanistani forces and Iranian forces on the border. Not clear who has started it, what happened, any of that. You also had Afghanistani Talibani government, Afghanistani government. The leader issued his 6 edicts regarding women, which are very general, but very positive.
That's good.
Really very positive. I mean, the bar is so low. I apologize to even describe it as positive, but they say women are people and they have free will, and because it's discussed, but it's in villages, in rural areas, it's very common, for example, for a woman to be you swap a girl for a girl with another tribe or another family. There are, besides that, they ban this is part of the 6th edict that, that, for example, if a wife of somebody dies, if a husband of someone dies, she's forced to marry the brother or the father or the cousin or something of the guy. Like, they ban that thing. They say this is not allowed under Islamic law and stuff. But they also say that women's presence in the society should be according to Islamic law and stuff. The inheritance, for example, in Islam, that's pretty much, by the way, that was in place even before. Like in Islam, the inheritance of a female child is set, so they cannot be disinherited. Generally speaking, in Islam, you can only, if you write a will or whatever, you can only write it about 1/3 of your belongings. 2/3 of your belonging is, according to Islam, is already decided.
Pre-decided. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So if that makes any sense to anyone.
And I guess it's interesting because because Afghanistan is is supposed to follow some kind of Islamic law. So.
Yeah, I mean,
we're not just speaking theoretically. We're just speaking these are the kind of rules and stuff that they might base their country on.
Oh yeah, yes. But then this is, by the way, if you go to most Arabic countries, the inheritance laws are based on the same thing, based on the same concept. For example, a male child gets twice as much as a female child, but the 1/3 of your belongings you can decide to go to whoever or whatever. So
that's interesting.
That's the system that most Muslim countries operate based. But anyway, so you had those stuff going on in
so hopefully it will actually translate to some material improvement for some women or some segments of the population.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they're just trying to establish order at the moment, and this will seem to be a bit of a sort of they're trying to play that, okay, recognize us internationally, give us the money, and we won't go full on crazy and kill everybody. So, that seems to be the game. But I don't think they're going to get much money, so they're going to end up going crazy and kill everybody. So that's my guess. But also, you had the nuclear talks.
Yeah, so sorry, one last thing. Sorry,
Sorry.
really bad. Yeah, before you just move on, and this is the last time I'm making this comment because I already made it last time, but I'm making it today again. It's just, I still can't believe how 3 months ago, the media and so many people were so up in arms about Afghanistan, and now nothing.
It's still more than the warriors, which was literally nothing. You still read an article on Guardian and BBC about, situation of Afghan women and all that. But during the warriors, it was literally like, what is Afghanistan?
Yeah. Man, but Afghanistan for a good 10 days, dominated mainstream broadcast media.
It was when Washington was being taken over by Taliban. Here now.
Last time I'm making this observation, I'll turn into a broken record. But please continue with Iran.
No, with Iran, the nuclear talks came to an end after 5 days. It seems
came to an end.
For now.
So this round is over. Okay. So this round of talks are kind of over. Okay, because it's just been 5 days. I thought it would last a few weeks or something.
Well, that's the thing. It seemed to have ended somewhat abruptly.
Okay.
There is mixed reports. Chinese authorities said that there has been some progress, but there is still ways to go. Then you had Americans and Europeans saying they are dismayed by Iran's position, and it doesn't seem likely that we're gonna do it, blah blah. It's like they were more negative. Iran has come out during the last 2 days saying, basically, I don't know if it's true or not, but they are saying, and I think it's probably true, they're basically saying remove all the sanctions that came into effect after Trump, including the sanctions on Sepah, the military organization, and the Supreme Leader's office, which is, by the way, the head of Iranian state. I mean, you like him or not like him, whatever, I don't care, but he's the head of the Iranian state.
Very well put.
American arguments is that those sanctions have nothing to do with the deal. Those are like terrorism sanctions, which I think technically their raison d'etre for their existence is different, like the way they got passed. So doesn't look. I mean, I've said.
No.
Good luck.
I mean, last week. Sorry.
No, sorry. I'm just going.
No, exactly. That's but
just
last
making
week,
noises now.
Last week you weren't very optimistic about this round of talks, and I mean, this first round under the new government seems to have ended quite quickly. I'm shocked. After a few days. I mean, because I just felt like they would usually last a few weeks. But I guess you have to go back from Vienna, go home. You can't stay in a hotel nonstop. And
technically, right now the ambassadors are negotiating with heads of states and governments, and I mean, look, the thing is, there was this leak of report from the US a month ago or 2 months ago that Iranians had sort of backed down from their position that the US government should guarantee the deal, to guarantee that they won't leave the deal even after this administration is gone. And they backed down from that to saying, no, just guarantee that you won't leave for the next 3 years. And it's still US didn't respond. And if I was, by the way, in the position of the US government or Iranian government at the moment, unless the other side gives up a major gives me a major thing, why would I? The status quo is fine. So, why would US give remove any sanctions on Iran?
What's in it for them really? I mean, why would you say Obama did that deal back then? to like for his own personal thing? Was that a motivation for him? You know, I made this deal.
Oh, Obama? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think,
What's the motivation
no.
for like for like the
I think
US now to make a deal with Iran? What would they gain?
Now or then? Now or Obama years?
Answer both.
Okay, Obama years, I think it was the deal was, in my view, the deal was basically completely in their benefit.
Mhm.
And at the time, Iran was, I think, at the time was 1 year or 6 months away from ability to have the bomb, and they increased their monitoring, they increased their everything. They, you know, it was really in my view, it was really a defeat, that deal for Iran, complete defeat. Understandably, because of banking sanctions and all that. So I think it was a good, like, it gave pretty much complete complete control over observing Iranian nuclear facilities without giving Iran anything, So that was Obama's aim. And I think they always meant to sort of break the deal.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that was always part of the calculation as well. It wasn't just Trump doing this, because if you look at, we're going to get to this hopefully later, but if you look at, Carter and Soviets, the deals they made, Reagan and Soviets, the deals they made. So, I think it was part of the plan, to be honest, before Trump came to office, people keep forgetting this. Before Trump came to office, before Trump was a candidate, I think, Obama was going around telling European banks not to invest in Iran, which was in complete violation of the deal.
Yeah.
Or plan of action, whatever it was. So yeah, now there is no now they don't have any
motivation.
Reason. Now, there is no, because the landscape has changed. Iran is a much more of an enemy now. So I really don't see anything in it for them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know more either to reason it. Yeah.
I keep now all they want is to control Iran's missile program, right? That's the big aim. I mean, all the other stuff is smoke and mirrors. It's all about the missile thing. It's all air power, right? And I don't think even Americans see a way to get that from, like, they're not going to give that up. So, what's the point? Like, why would we remove sanctions? For what?
Yeah. No, I think that can't counter that with anything. What else? Any other stories?
Oh, yes. Now we're going to get to the one that is fun and interesting. Do I have it open? Let me see if I have it open here. No, I don't.
No worries.
I am. So I sent the article to you, and
The Guardian on China and US, the US boycotting.
Oh, can you read the title? That's what I was going to do.
So let me read the headline. So by The Guardian, US confirms it will stage diplomatic boycott of Beijing Winter Olympics. Decision is response to what is described as China's genocide and crimes against humanity in Xinjiang and other abuses. So yeah, the White House would confirm. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Have you followed this whole tennis player thingy?
Yeah, no, I thought it was linked to that. Yeah, I heard. So this tennis player, I mean, I've heard, I actually haven't listened to as much as I want. This tennis player has disappeared or something, if I'm not mistaken, or were they sexually abused?
Well, both. Allegedly both. She was disappeared, and then as a ghost she was sexually it's allegedly both. But then again, The Hill had this fantastic segment with Katie Halperon, which shed some light on the issue, in my view, because I'm always suspicious of this type of issues when they focus so much on one. She made some allegations that Katie Halper was saying that translators say it was more of a, basically it was more of a, I had this relationship with this guy and he was an a-hole type of person. But then in media in the West, it got reported as in it was sexual assault allegation against her trainer or something. I'm still not clear. I read a couple of articles, but I don't want to make a definite comment of my views. I don't have any as of yet, but you know. And then she then went off Twitter, and then they keep saying she's disappeared, but apparently during this time she has posted pictures on her Instagram. She has done an interview with international organization.
Really?
So I'm not, yeah, so it seems like a bit of a scaremongering from media, kind of similar to the Rittenhouse thingy, it seems. And there are all these memes and pictures going with her face and then her mouth covered with like communist Chinese flags. And I don't know. I'm by the way, I'm sad when, if anybody comes out against allegations of cruelty of any kind, abuse of any kind, and they're disappeared, it's a tragedy. But the hypocrisy of it is so obvious, because you're talking about a country in which American companies, famously Apple, have factories in which children and workers are abused regularly. And then we are supposed to think that suddenly all of the media cares about one tennis player, like the most bourgeois sport out there. I mean, it's just, yeah, that's why people can't care. It's not because they don't care about the fact that somebody might not get justice. People care about that. It's just they don't. When you guys say it, nobody can trust you, and they know you are weaponizing it. So, yeah, I don't know the truth of a story specifically. So, you know, but I highly suggest checking out the Hill video and then doing more research and letting me know because so but then this I read this Winter Olympics thingy, the boycott, and then the falling approval rating of the Bidens, which, oh my God, by the way, thank God Trump is gone. Stephen Colbert is back, and he's so funny, man. Stephen Colbert monologues are becoming so much funnier now that Trump is not there. He made fun of Biden a couple of times, and it was really good. And so the falling poll numbers and the boycott of the Olympics and the scaremongering of China, and goddamn, I think we are back. We are literally back in the 70s, and it's Carter presidency all over again.
Yeah, can you tell me why? Can you tell me a little bit why you say that? Because my knowledge in this area is much less than you.
Sure. No, Carter was basically this, following Nixon and Ford and the scandals that basically shook the American system and the faith in the American system. You had this guy from the South, this Democrat, good Christian boy from the South, elected to restore faith and values and all that and Christian values into American democracy and all that. And there is this, by the way, I'm going to mention this article, so I better take it out soon. But he's the guy, by the way, he's the guy who actually, in many ways, starts the Reagan revolution. A lot of people think neoliberal turn started with in the middle of Carter's presidency, basically. In the middle of his presidency, basically Keynesian economic system reaches its end point. There is the Keynesian crisis, and because pretty much the only economics in town that are opposite of Keynesian economists are neoliberals, Carter starts putting in neoliberal policies, which are austerity. Basically, he starts the austerity. There's this great article by Michael Lind on Salon, how Reaganism actually started with Carter. I think Reagan was the first modern president to preach low taxes, free markets, and morality, ? It's from 2011. Check it out if you like. So
stuff.
and by the way, Reagan land, and I think in Reagan, is it in Reagan land or I think in the book Reagan land, Carter is discussed as well. But so and I don't know if you recall when we talked about the beginnings of Taliban. Berzinski is the guy who goes and is the first person who organizes the Taliban. And Berzinski was the national security advisor to Carter. And in my view, actually, Berzinski was one of the better characters in. I mean, you had Cyrus Vance, the corrupt. I think he was attorney general in New York or district attorney. I don't know, but the corrupt Cyrus Vance was he's head of a state, you know. And by the way, as an Iranian, I must confess that, you know, full disclosure, Iranians have a specific and overwhelming hate. Iranian bourgeois class, which I am somewhat associated with, there's a very, very strong hate for Carter. I mean, I hate him for different reasons. There is this narrative that Carter betrayed the Shah. I don't really, I mean, I kind of agree, but I think it was more like he was just incompetent. But yeah, but it's very, and the other reason why, I mean, the reason Olympics specifically made me think of Carter and, you know, his low ratings. There was all these strikes during his time, by the way, and all that. So the parallels, in my view, are quite a lot. And I like in 1980s Summer Olympics also was boycotted by Carter over the invasion of Afghanistan by Soviet Union. And it's very famous thing, you know. And Carter, by the way, made a deal with Soviets and then went to the Congress, and then the Congress didn't pass the deal. And then, you know what I mean? Like it's same thing with the Iran deal. So, you know, and, you know, and by the way, Carter as a person, though, probably one of the nicer people who ever became a president. But it just shows you, doesn't matter how nice you are, if you're incompetent, and in my view, if you're and it worries me because I think Biden presidency is going to be just like that, a nothing presidency that might lead to, yeah, I don't know, a second coming of Reagan.
Okay, yeah,
would be scary. That would be goddamn scary.
So further like a right-wing backlash that's also very like economic, big economic backlash, kind of. Is that what you're also saying?
I don't know in terms of economic even, but right now nationalism and xenophobia seems to be on the rise. That seems to be the trend globally, but who knows? Who knows? But the situation seems ripe, as Lenin said. The power was on the streets, and we just grabbed it. And this seems to be somebody, let's say, a smart version of Trump or something.
Yeah,
and
I see.
But when by the way, that documentary, the QAnon Into the Storm that I told you about, I don't know if you saw any of it.
No, not yet.
As of yet. Yeah, that one is like if these, like, you see, like the fight is between these crazy people that are in QAnon and the apathetic cynicals that are in Biden administration. The crazy people will win. It's, you know.
Yeah. No, right now, I mean, I can't disagree with much what you were saying. I was listening to it, and
they have something to fight for.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very scary times for me.
No, and I mean, and this is a bit unrelated, but you just said like right-wing xenophobia is like on the rise, like globally. I mean, again, sometimes I like to disagree with this kind of stuff, but I mean, at least it seems like acquiring power and being more in the forefront in the media politically. Yeah, it seems to be the case. And I'm just thinking in France, but then again, have to see how this election in France, for instance, unravels. But apparently, I mean, one of the main opponents who's going against Macron, he's going for exactly this. I forgot his name now, something Zemmour or something. I think he was a TV host or something.
Oh, man. Yeah. No, the TV host, Le Pen, and you just had the less Republicans. How do you pronounce that? The party of de Gaulle, the center-right party. They just had the first round of voting, and the most right-wing guy who was, by the way, Michel Barnier and stuff. They were also, doing right-wing talking points. He, like this right-wing, basically crazy person, came on top.
Yeah.
Not more than 50%, but
yeah, and I mean there are so many of them, so at the end they're all probably going to cancel each other out, and it's going to be one of them against Macron, I would assume. But yeah, they kind of, I guess they're splitting the vote among them. I mean, they have, yeah,
I hope. I mean, this is still primary of the Republicans, so we'll see. I mean, in the first round of presidential election in France would be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, very good stuff. Anything else to mention?
No, but I'm just saying that. I just want to ask you: am I like? Do you feel, growing up? Did you ever just? I know you weren't into politics or anything, but the Carter thing. I'm right? Like most people in Iran, just there is a. I don't know if you've heard this.
Oh no, that actually I didn't know. I was gonna say no. The stereotype that I know about Carter is that he was like a leftist politician, but I kind of know it from like the American side. Yeah, I know the Iran part.
Okay. I just wondered. Oh yeah, he's just, his name is equivalent to like, Carter Satan.
but because he didn't, but the reason that they give is because he didn't support the Iranian government enough at the time. Right, that is the reason that they don't like him. They don't like him for anti-American reasons. They think that he wasn't American enough, if I'm understanding correctly, in a way.
He wasn't pro-Shah enough.
Pro-Shah,
yeah.
In that sense. But I meant they didn't hate him because they're like, American imperialist or something like that. That's not the reason.
Yes, exactly. No, they were like, no, be more no.
Exactly. Be more imperialist.
No, but he gets, that's the thing is though, Carter gets it both ways. Like the other people don't.
Yeah, that's what
Carter gets it both ways, because the other groups, the Islamic group, like the other 40-50% of population hates him because they say he did support Shah more than enough, but he still beats him. So he gets the universal. Him and Reagan are really hated, but Reagan less so, far less so.
Interesting. All right, Sam, I think it's time to move to our final segment for today's podcast, progressive tweets. So I have a few tweets by Cenk. All of the ones that I have today actually by Cenk. And I find him a bit funny because it just seems like he just like peddles everything that Glenn Greenwald says, or some things that Glenn Greenwald says, and he apparently disagrees so much with Glenn Greenwald. So I just find them funny in that way. But first, I wanted you to start and talk a little bit about Peter Daou. So I didn't know him. I didn't know him really until he told me about him. But apparently he was a big Hillary guy, and now he's had a change of heart. So why don't you tell us what's that all about?
To be honest, I wanted to complain really that what the hell, and how did I not hear about this? But Peter Daou, I sent you a couple of videos to sort of introduce you to him. I mean, he was the most, he loved Hillary Clinton. He loved her, like truly loved her. He wasn't like after a position or power or anything. He just loved her. And, he was the most, I remember because he was all over the media back then, and his tweets were more famous back then. It wasn't quite, but he was crazy supporter. He would attack Bernie supporters, and anything bad you would say about Hillary, it was sexism and stuff. And recently I just Googled him and I went on his Twitter thing, and I saw some really, really, I was like shocked. And this is, by the way, this guy is, he's kind of like Glenn in a sense that I think he lives on Twitter pretty much. Like, I just looked at 1-2 days of tweets, and I was just shocked. I was really shocked. So, for example, he
But before you say that, by the way, it's only impressive if you're always on Twitter and able to do other things. So that's what impressive about Glenn. I don't know
He's
if
a musician.
this guy can do the same, okay? Because that's what impressive about Glenn. He's always on Twitter, yet also producing other stuff. That's the confusing part. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the first thing was I saw he retweeted Nick Brana from the People's Party, the guy, the guy. I was like, Jesus Christ, Nick Brana is somebody. Some people on the left are like, no, he's too to the left.
Yeah.
And I was like, he retweeted something about Chuck Schumer's and the fact that they confirmed judges. Then he retweeted something from Ryan Knight, which I knew was something like somebody from the left, quite left. And it was Democrats control the House, Senate, and White House. They could use their majority to codify Roe, pass a living wage, and make a healthcare human right. But passing laws to solve issues just isn't as profitable as using these issues to fearmonger and fundraise for 2020 and 2024. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And I just went and read more and I found this. It was in response to somebody else's tweet. I made similar anti-Bernie, anti-Sarandon, because Susan Sarandon supported Bernie Sanders, arguments before I did some soul searching. Harsh truth. Them leaders, Obama, Biden, Pelosi, have had ample opportunity to kill, filibuster, expand the court, and codify Roe. They won't do it because they protect the corrupt system. And I found that apparently in 2020 he was supporting Bernie.
Oh, really?
And he wasn't, and that's why we didn't hear about, like, I didn't hear of him in the media as much, because he had this article written in April supporting Bernie, in which he describes how, I know everybody's shocked, including myself, like, that I'm supporting. It's so weird. And then you see, like, I loved how, look, I would like to compare these things. Where is it?
Okay, sorry about that. My headphones died again. Please continue.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just So I realized, probably because that's why I haven't heard so much from him, because he switched sides. Because, for example, in Wikipedia, it says he was described by New York Times as one of the most prominent political bloggers in the nation. The Washington Post said that his early work in digital politics helped innovate a whole new way of campaigning, which was basically going crazy on Twitter, like a Victorian lady who has neurosis, like, why are you attacking him? That was his innovative new way of campaigning. But now in 2020, this is by Politico. A Hillary shill goes all in for Bernie. So now he's a Hillary shill, in 2020. So it was quite a fascinating. It was quite a fascinating turn of events I didn't see coming at all, which I just did. And I must say, it just makes me more critical of Bernie's campaign. Like, you should have recruited this guy. He would have been, like, you put him in charge of Bernie's account, he would have, like, there wouldn't have been there wouldn't be night of sleep for any other, like, he could have gone crazy, he would have gone mental, It's a shame they didn't recruit him. It would have been fantastic. Although I doubt it, but his turn might have to do with personal reasons, because he did make this.
Sorry, I was like, maybe got sidelined by the Biden administration or something before, or something like that.
Yeah, well, he did make this website, OVERRATED or something. He had this project, and then it got endorsed by Hillary Clinton in 2017. And then I think about 2 weeks later, the website got suspended. It became inactive. So I think the failure of that project may have said, maybe Hillary's not as popular as I thought.
Oh, really? You think so? Okay.
Maybe, I don't know. So it was fascinating to find that out.
Yeah, I didn't know him at all. So I mean, I'm just looking at now too. He had like 3 number 1 Billboard singles apparently as a jazz pianist in the 90s.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, I knew he was a successful musician. He's Lebanese American, and he's got a strange background. He was in a Catholic militia in Lebanon, which is quite mental. But
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't. But damn, so he's made a full switch now, and he's still on the Bernie wagon again. A good year later.
Oh man, he's going crazy. He's tweeting like 20 tweets per minute.
But I mean, I guess you can't. Well, now I think about it, your theory probably falls apart because Bernie's not going to bring him more popularity than Hillary. So if he was looking for popularity, maybe he should have stuck to Hillary.
My theory that it might be because of I don't know. No, Bernie would have come on. If I don't know.
Oh, back
I
then,
think if Bernie endorsed the website, it would be still even. I don't know.
And what does that mean? How'd you get your website
I don't know, why
endorsed?
would you?
That's like a new thing. Your website is verified and also endorsed by a politician.
I guess
That's
maybe
a new one.
it's like endorsing a magazine. I don't know. I really don't know.
That is good stuff. Anything else on this guy worth mentioning?
No, just try to recruit people like him to Bernie or Bernie type of politics.
And do you think we're gonna see Bernie again in 2 years? Has he already said that he won't run or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I doubt he'll run, but
we shall see.
Yeah.
All right. Should we wrap up with a few Cenk tweets?
Sure.
Yeah. So I mean, once again, nothing too particular about them, except kind of feels like Glenn Greenwald wrote some of them. So the first one. We want right wing and left wing to join Wolfpack to fight against corruption. This is one thing we all agree on. We can continue to fight about everything else and after, but let's end the reign of the establishment in Washington first. So yeah, he's been on this thing for a while too.
I don't know if that's actually what Glenn would is. I believe, I don't remember, but I don't remember specifically, but Wolfpack is about repealing Citizens United.
Oh, that part, yes, that part I'm not saying, but I'm saying, the left and right have some things in common and let's join together. That part is very Glenny,
well,
if you ask me. But Glenn would say more than we all agree on one thing, like more than that.
Sure. And I would say that, by the way, you're right, very Glenny. And it shows, by the way, why this type of right and left coming together would never work, because everybody has a completely different idea of what left and right would coming together would mean. And by the way, right would always destroy the left. I mean, they won't let you anyway.
Yeah, typically. Yeah. I know. It's like Cenk would hear Glenn say exactly this and be like, no, and then repeat it. Just go to the next one. Cable news is a protection racket for the Democratic establishment. I mean, I know that Cenk would say these things, but it's just so funny because Glenn is so on these points recently and even previously, let's say. And Cenk has like attacked them and can't find like one thing that is good about Glenn whatsoever. Yet like tweet after tweet making the same comments.
To be fair though, I mean, Democratic and Republic.
Yeah.
Fox is cable, right?
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's not 100%, but I mean, it's just, I wouldn't go over these tweets if he hadn't attacked them. So attempt to attack him viciously. I don't think they end up being vicious. The third one, actually, let me see. What did he say? No one in US mainstream media will care about this. They all know Manchin takes tons of corporate contributions and does whatever his donors tell him. And they think that's wonderful. They praise him all the time for raising so much money and for being moderate. And sorry, he had tweeted this in response to New Guardian. U.S. Senators Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema have been condemned by anti-corruption watchdogs for accepting a flood money from Republican and corporate. Okay, here I'm not too sure what my angle was with this with this tweet. So I don't necessarily have a comment.
I'm really interested to know what his anti-corruption watchdogs referring to? Because I think those are the real criminals here. I mean, everybody knows Mansion and Cinema are criminal, but those do they have any legal authority, or are they just there to say, "Ooh, you're a bad boy"?
It
Because
seems
if you're
like
just there, I would like to know, where do they get their fundings from, and wherever they get their fundings from, I'll have I like to sell them a bridge.
And the anti-corruption watchdogs or Joe
No,
Manchin and
whoever
Sam?
gives them money.
Yeah.
No, whoever gives anti-corruption watchdog money for going bad boy.
Hey, I guess it's better than nothing, maybe you can say. But yeah, the anti-corruption are anti-corruption watchdogs, is that like, are they part of Senate?
I have no idea. That's what I'm wondering.
True. So you're saying
Who are you? Who are you to talk about? What is your like, I'm guessing it's some NGO probably that is dedicated to watching corruption. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, that one slipped
or
in
dogs.
there. So I don't have any background information or any anything to follow up there.
Yeah, I mean, he's right.
No, this one I don't have anything to say.
I mean, it's not just no one in US mainstream media, it's just no one in US really or anywhere else.
Okay, let's move on to the last one. So this is a kind of old one, it's from last week. So the tweet below said, and there you go, Kyle Kulinski is officially done with Jimmy Dore, essentially called him a liar. So yeah, so now Kyle is quite friends with Vosh. Yeah, and I didn't watch his video, but yeah, I think Kyle went on and said, Jimmy Dore is...
Just read
Have you heard what he was saying, Kyle? I mean, he's saying, I don't like Jimmy Dore at all anymore. I think he's pretty much saying, and I'm glad that I'm not friends with him. I believe that's kind of sentiment.
I don't think he said that.
No, he didn't.
I don't think he specifically said that. I remember he said, but I think it's desperate, some of the things he's doing, and it's hard to be friends with anyone. He was a bit more, I would say, moderate about it. That's it. I don't remember. I don't really remember.
Yeah. I don't watch too much.
2 or 3 weeks.
Cenk's tweet, I mean, I hate whenever someone says, Kyle also just figured out there's no Santa Claus. Like, come on. Whenever he tries to be like, like this kind of funny, it kind of reminds me of his tweet about Israel Palestine, and he was like, they're fighting over gods. Like, it has the same sentiment and this, just so like, okay, like first year of politics in 2000s. I didn't know he was this dense. And they would take him years to figure out the obvious. Says the guy who was sitting next to him in a studio forever. And then now he says, I didn't see him being a douche to other people. He was so nice to me, but apparently he was a douche to others. I mean, come on, the audacity on this guy. And then it says, I'm waiting for everyone who equated this low-life grifter Dore to us and equivocated about who was right to offer their apologies. Like, no, where did you get that part from? No.
What? What does that mean? Who equivocated about who was right to offer? I don't understand that part.
I guess for some reason he wants people to say that you're right and Jimmy Dore is like a piece of shit, as if this, whatever Kyle says, like means that, as if like that's the final call. Okay, yep. Kyle now pointed out that he's a douchebag, so everybody should now know or apologize. I don't know. I think that's what he's.
I really don't understand the last part, but I think, to be honest, from what I recall from the video, he didn't really apologize. He actually mentioned a couple of times that on the politics he agrees with Jimmy Dore. I do think he was not. I don't agree with him. I think what the elephant in the room with Kyle is that him and Crystal did something really unprofessional, which is made appointment and then didn't tell somebody until hours after the appointment that for some reason, for whatever good reason, bad reason, they decided. And that has nothing to do with, even if Kyle agreed with Cenk 100%, this is a shitty thing to do. It's like, in my view, it's just put aside politics. This is just goddamn manners.
Yeah.
So that's that, whatever.
And his bullshit excuse. Yeah.
But yeah, I like what you said about I didn't think of that yeah, for many years, Jimmy Dore was, and yeah, he was so dense. It took him so long. It took him years. And I believe they were it seemed friends for years. So yeah,
apparently
it took him like 6 months after Cenk. So I mean, if we agree with Cenk, which we don't, but these 6 months to Cenk was the make it or break it in terms of intelligence. So
no, I mean, a good thing that Cenk didn't become a politician, because from Cenk himself, I've heard him to say this. He'd be like, like Jimmy was so nice, take me out and buy steaks and stuff. Or I think that's Anna said that Jimmy would take Cenk out and buy steaks and stuff. So Jimmy Dore can buy Cenk's love. I can just imagine with a little bit more of money. Feed him 2 steaks and he'll be all good.
God damn it, Kyle Killins. I must say the worst part of all of this. Can you guess what's the worst part of all of this to me?
The Vosh part?
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Man, Kyle and Vosh weren't friends for a while. Then Vosh went on Crystal and Kyle and Crystal and Ball, and then everything seems to be okay after that. But yeah.
No, I don't care about their friendship. I just it's like the Lauren Bo, what was the name of the
no, come on. No. Are you comparing Bosch to Lauren Boebert? I mean, I think pushing it. Yeah.
No, not really, different audiences. But it's just, and different, same level of intelligence, I would say. But it's so annoying to see, shit, I'm such a loser. These guys are about the same age. Fucking hell.
Listen, Sam, life is a marathon, not a sprint. And you never I mean, this has been narrated too, but you don't also want to peak early in your life. Maybe you will never peak, but also peaking. I'm not saying these people are peaking early, but I've seen some people peak very early, especially in in things where you can do it until the rest of your life. I mean, sure, if it's sports, you want to peak early. You can't peak when you're 50. But in these kind of areas where we're in, news, media, YouTube, podcast, university, everything, there's still time for you. There's hope. So I would.
No, there's hope. There's hope. No, and you don't want to peak, at any cost, right? You don't want to peak at cost of selling your first child to the Moloch or something. It's just not worth it. So yeah, definitely. No, it's just it's more about the fact that Jesus Christ, how did these people got a following? What is going on? Anyways,
I mean, Vosh has some good acting too, and I mean, I'm guessing every now and then he makes some decent point. I mean, the whole acting, the way he talks very seriously and all that.
You mean he does he's like the Elizabeth Holmes of the left.
Except lying in his field of work is just
or Jordan Peters. I don't know, because do you feel Jordan Peterson's voice is for real? Or
I mean, that guy, I don't even. I barely listen to him. Like, I've tried to a few times here and there, but so I can't even comment on that guy.
To be fair, I've listened to more of his parodies than him, actually. So fair.
I mean, with him talk about elephants in the room, there are so many, right? Apparently, poor guy was in a hospital for a year or two, and then he comes out with a self-help and mental book the day he's out of hospital. So I mean, so many questions to just ask that guy.
I mean, look, personal life has little to do with
in his case,
academic output, but I don't really know. I read one of his. Yeah, I read something from him. Anyway,
but
but
and he also
Jesus,
seems,
but that was he also seems sorry, but.
And he gives a lot of very basic advice. Jordan Peterson, as if he's giving the craziest advice ever.
Yeah, clean your room.
Yeah. Shit. Good thing someone with a PhD is telling me that. Okay, let me note that down.
Well, if it comes from your dad, it's not the
That's
same.
True. So maybe he's one of those guys. Well, but then he needs to shift his audience. Maybe talk to 5-year-olds instead of 18-year-olds.
I mean, oh yeah. I mean, I meant the voice part, but
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I feel it got very harsh very fast.
But okay. All right, Sam. Good stuff. Let's wrap up this party. If anybody has any comments, questions, criticisms, please leave them down below. Make sure to get to them. If not, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video. Thank you.